Hello guys, welcome to Saiyan What Ifs. So in this video, we will see, what if I extend my field effect? If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show W is some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Blank. Chapter 1. The Breaking Point. The morning sun filtered through the bamboo curtains of the Sun family home, casting golden stripes across Goku's sleeping face. His chest rose and fell with the deep, even breaths of a man completely at peace. Outside, Mount Paozu basked in the dawn light, dew evaporating from grass blades in ethereal wisps that danced toward the sky. Goku's eyes snapped open, instantly alert. Something had changed in the air, a subtle shift in pressure, a faint disturbance in the planet's ki field. To most beings, it would have been imperceptible, but to someone who had spent day attuning himself to the energy flows of the universe, it rang like a warning bell. He slipped from bed without disturbing Chi-Chi, his bare feet making no sound on the wooden floor. At the window, he extended his senses outward, searching. The disturbance wasn't malevolent, exactly, just wrong. Like a note played in the wrong key, it created a dissonance in the symphony of Earth's energy. You feel it too. Chi-Chi's voice came from behind him, sleep-roughened but alert. Goku nodded without turning. After years of marriage to a Saiyan warrior who had saved the universe multiple times, Ikai had developed her own sensitivity to danger. Not key detection in the traditional sense, but an intuition honed by survival. It's not like anything I've felt before, Goku murmured, his usual free demeanor replaced by focused concentration. It's almost like, it's not quite here yet. Chi-Chi wrapped her robe tighter around herself, joining him at the window. Should we call the others? Not yet. Might be nothing. But the tightness in his shoulders betrayed his concern. A sudden gust of wind rattled the wind chimes hanging from the eaves, 5 hollow bamboo tubes that Chi-Chi had carefully selected for their tonal harmony. Today, they clanged against each other in chaotic discord. Goku's stomach growled loudly, breaking the tension. Chi-Chi rolled her eyes, familiar exasperation replacing worry. Well, whatever's coming, you won't face it on an empty stomach, she declared, moving toward the kitchen with purposeful strides. I'll make breakfast while you check the perimeter. This was their ritual during uncertain times, Chi-Chi creating normalcy through domestic acts while Goku prepared for battle. Neither acknowledged the pattern explicitly, but both found comfort in it. Outside, the mountain air carried the scent of pine and wild herbs. Goku closed his eyes, extending his awareness beyond the physical. Something tickled at the edge of his perception, a presence that seemed to exist between spaces. Neither here nor there, his communicator, Bulma's latest invention for the Z fighters, buzzed at his wrist. Goku. Bulma's face appeared on the small screen, her blue hair disheveled. Behind her, complex holographic displays showed energy readings across multiple spectrums. Are you seeing this? Feeling something, he replied. Can't quite place it. I'm pickin' G-up quantum fluctuations consistent with dimensional rifting, she said, her fingers flying over keyboards out of frame. But the pattern is unlike anything in my database. It's not like when Whis or Beerus travels between realms. This is messier. Goku frowned. Location. That's the problem. It's everywhere and nowhere. The readings keep shifting. Frustration etched lines around her eyes. I've called an emergency meeting at Capsule Corp. Can you bring Chi-Chi? Her insight might help. She's spotted patterns the rest of us missed before. The acknowledgement of his wife's contributions came naturally from Bulma. Unlike some of their friends who still sometimes treated Chi-Chi as merely Goku's temperamental spouse, Bulma had long recognized the formidable intelligence behind Chi-Chi's passionate exterior. We'll be there in, Goku began, but never finished his sentence. The air split open. There was no other way to describe it. Not a portal or a tear. The air itself divided like tissue under a scalpel, revealing nothing behind it. Not darkness or another dimension, just nothing. An absence so complete it hurt the eyes to look upon it. From this impossible void stepped a figure that made no sense to Goku's senses. It had a form, humanoid, tall, with limbs and a head, but it seemed to be composed of negative space, as if someone had cut a person-shaped hole in reality. Goku's bod. Why moved automatically into a defensive stance, energy gathering at his core, ready to transform if necessary. Identify yourself, he commanded, voice carrying the authority of a warrior who had faced gods and demons without flinching. The figure's head tilted, the motion unnaturally smooth. When it spoke, the sound seemed to come from everywhere at once, bypassing the ears and materializing directly in Goku's mind. Designation irrelevant, it said, its voice neither male nor female, young nor old. You are Son Goku. Anomaly. Power sink. Probability disruptor. I don't know what any of that means, Goku replied honestly. But you're trespassing on my home planet. State your business or leave. The being took another step forward. The grass beneath its feet didn't bend, it ceased to exist, leaving perfectly shaped footprints of nothingness in the earth. Business. Evaluation and neutralization of anomalies. The multiverse corrects itself. It raised an arm, pointing not at Goku but at the house behind him. Starting point identified. Horror dawned as Goku realized the being's intent. No, he lunged forward with supernatural speed, but the void being wasn't where it appeared to be. His fist passed through empty air as the creature's arm extended impossibly, reaching toward the house where Chi-Chi remained. Goku instant transmitted himself to the kitchen, grabbing Chi-Chi mid-em. Ocean as she stirred a pot of rice porridge. Goku. What? She began, startled by his sudden appearance and grim expression. No time, he said, attempting another instant transmission to Bulma's lab. The safest place on Earth with its advanced shielding. Nothing happened. For the first time in decades, his instant transmission technique failed. The void being had somehow disrupted the energy patterns he used to navigate space. The kitchen darkened as if a cloud had passed over the sun. But looking up, Goku saw something far worse. The ceiling was disappearing, not breaking or disintegrating, but being systematically erased, revealing the same empty nothingness from which the being had emerged. Outside, now, Goku commanded, sweeping Chi-Chi into his arms and blasting through the side wall, rather than waiting for whatever was consuming the house to reach them. In the yard, Gohan and Goten had arrived, presumably having sensed the disturbance. Both were powered up, golden auras blazing around them as they faced the void being, which now stood motionless in the center of what had been the Sun family garden. Dad, what is that thing? Gohan called, his scholar's mind visibly trying to categorize the uncategorizable. Don't engage, Goku shouted, setting Chi-Chi down behind him. It can negate matter. Keep your distance. Too late, he noticed the second void forming beneath their feet. Jump, he yelled, but even as they all leapt upward, tendrils of nothingness shot from the void, wrapping around Chi-Chi's ankle. Her scream as the nothingness began to consume her leg would haunt Goku's nightmares for eternity. Not a scream of pain. Chi-Chi had endured pain stoically many times, but of existential terror as part of her very being was unmade. Goku transformed instantly into Super Saiyan Blue, the familiar rush of divine ki flooding his system. He fired a concentrated energy blast at the tendril, but it passed harmlessly through, continuing its consumption of his wife. Mom. Gohan and Goten converged, their combined energy attacks equally ineffective. Chi-Chi's eyes met Goku's, wide with terror but also with the fierce love that had defined her throughout their life together. Goku, she whispered, find a way. Then she was gone, not dead. Death Goku could have sensed. She was simply erased, as if she had never existed. Something broke inside Goku's mind. A barrier, a limit, a dam holding back what no mortal was meant to contain. His consciousness expanded outward in all directions, perceiving not just this moment but moments before and after, not just this reality but possibilities branching infinitely. Dad. Goten's voice seemed to come from a great distance, though he stood mere feet away. Your aura. Goku couldn't see what his son saw, how his blue aura was cracking, fracturing like glass to reveal something darker, deeper, and infinitely more terrifying beneath. All he knew was rage. Not the controlled anger he had channeled before in battle, but something primal and cosmic. The void being tilted its head again, appearing to study him with newfound interest. Anomaly exhibiting unexpected energy pattern, it noted dispassionately. Recalibrating neutralization approach, it gestured, and a new void opened directly beneath Gohan and Goten. No, Goku roared, the single syllable carrying such power that the air itself seemed to shatter around him. He reached for his sons, but watched in helpless horror as they too were consumed by nothingness, expressions of shock frozen on their faces as they ceased to be. Something shifted in the universe. Later, those who survived to tell the tale would describe it differently. Bulma's instruments recorded a gravitational wave that briefly exceeded the mass energy of the observable universe. Y.S. would claim the fabric of time itself had hiccuped. Beerus would complain of indigestion so severe it woke him from a 1,000-year nap. But in that moment, Goku experienced it as clarity, perfect, terrible clarity. His hair stood on end, not in the familiar style of his Super Saiyan forms, but writhing like living flame. Its color shifted constantly through hues that had no names in human language. His eyes became windows into infinity, pupils replaced by spiraling galaxies. His skin cracked to reveal not blood and tissue beneath, but pure, concentrated emotion given physical form. This was not Super Saiyan, not Ultra Instinct. This was something else entirely, a transformation born not of training or necessity, but of rage so profound it reshaped reality around it. The void being took a step backward, its featureless face somehow conveying alarm. Classification error, it said, voice no longer steady. Subject exceeds parameters. Requesting extraction. It never finished its request. Goku moved, though, moved, was an inadequate word for what happened. He simply existed in one space, then existed in another, no transition between states. His hand, no longer a hand but a manifesta. Tian of pure will, closed around what passed for the being's throat. Where they touched, reality itself screamed in protest, fundamental forces conflicting in ways they were never meant to. Where are they? Goku demanded, his voice layered with harmonics that caused the mountain beneath them to vibrate in resonance. Where is my family? The void being struggled, its form fluctuating as it attempted to phase through Goku's grip. For the first time, it showed something approaching emotion, fear. Consumed, it managed, removed from probability matrix, function irreversible, lie, Goku growled, certainty filling him from a source of knowledge he couldn't identify. Nothing is irreversible, energy cannot be destroyed, only transformed. They exist somewhere. Tell me. The being's form began to fracture under the pressure of Goku's new power. Cracks of blinding light appeared across its non-surface. The void between, reclamation processing, dimensional filtration, it gasped out D.S. connected phrases as its coherence failed. Cannot. Access. Without. Authority. I am the authority now. Goku roared, his rage transformed state growing stronger with each passing second. He sky above turned colors never before seen on Earth, reality struggling to accommodate the power he was channeling. With a final squeeze, Goku crushed whatever passed for the being's essence. It did. NT die. Goku sensed it wasn't truly alive to begin with, but it shattered, fragments of void stuff scattering in all directions before blinking out of existence. In the sudden silence that followed, Goku stood alone on what remained of his property. The house was gone. The garden was gone. Even the mountain beneath him had been partially erased, leaving a perfectly hemispherical crater with him at its center. His rage burned undiminished, but direction was lost. There was nothing left to fight. Nothing left to protect. His family, gone. His home, gone. Only emptiness remained. Goku threw back his head and screamed his anguish to the heavens. The sound transcended physical limitations, rippling outward across dimensions, carrying his grief and fury to the furthest reaches of the multiverse. Stars trembled. Gods stirred uneasily on their thrones. And somewhere in the spaces between realities, something ancient and terrible took notice. Bulma Briefs had witnessed many impossible things in her life. She had seen men transform into golden-haired deities, watched planets explode, traveled through time, and befriended literal gods. She had believed herself beyond surprise. She was wrong. The readings from Mount Paozu defied everything she knew about physics, and she knew quite a lot. Energy levels fluctuated wildly. Quantum fields collapsed and reformed in patterns that should have torn the planet apart, and strangest of all, her instruments detected temporal anomalies spreading outward like ripples in a pond. What the hell is happening out there? She muttered, fingers flying over holographic keyboards as she tried to make sense of the data flooding her systems. Then came the scream. not audible through her ears, but somehow directly perceived by her mind. A sound of such profound loss and rage that it brought tears to her eyes without her knowing why. And she recognized its source. "Goku," she whispered, a chill running down her spine. In all their years of friendship, through all the battles and transformations, she had never felt anything like this from him. The lab door burst open, admitting a disheveled Vegeta. The Saiyan Prince's expression was uncharacteristically shaken, his usual scowl replaced by wide-eyed disbelief. "Did you feel that?" he demanded without preamble. Bulma nodded, still trying to process the readings. "Something's happened to Goku. These energy signatures, they're beyond anything I've recorded before. Beyond even Ultra Instinct. It's not just power," Vegeta said, moving to stare at her screens though the data meant little to him. "It's wrong. Kakarot's energy has always been pure, even when he's pushed to his limits. This is, corrupted isn't the right word. Transmuted, perhaps, coming from Vegeta, who typically dismissed anything he couldn't punch as irrelevant. This philosophical distinction was alarming. "I need to get out there," Bulma decided, already reaching for her emergency field kit. "Something catastrophic has happened." Vegeta gripped her arm, stopping her. "No, whatever this is, it's not safe. Even for me." The admission clearly cost him pride. "I'll go alone." "That's not happening," she countered firmly. "I've built sensing equipment that can analyze energy patterns you can't even perceive. If this is some new enemy..." "It's not an enemy," Vegeta interrupted. "It's Kakarot himself who's become dangerous." He held up his gloved hand, which trembled slightly. "Look, I haven't shaken like this since I faced Beerus for the first time. Whatever Kakarot has become, it terrifies the Saiyan instinct within me. And that should terrify you." Bulma's retort died on her lips as her computers suddenly blared warnings. The temporal anomalies were expanding exponentially, rewriting causality itself in their wake. "Oh no," she breathed, watching the visualizations with growing horror. "The timeline is fracturing. Whatever's happening is creating parallel reality branches at an unprecedented rate." Vegeta cursed in the ancient Saiyan tongue. "Contact the angels. This is beyond us now." "Already tried," Bulma replied grimly. No response from Whis. "The quantum disturbance might be interfering with T-dimensional frequencies I used to call him." A new alert sounded. Proximity warning. Someone was approaching Capsule Corp at impossible speed. The building's reinforced windows shattered inward as a figure halted outside, hovering in midair. Bulma gasped, clutching the edge of her workstation for support. It was Goku, but not as they had ever seen him. His form flickered and shifted, sometimes appearing solid, sometimes transparent, sometimes multiplying into overlapping after images. His hair writhed with colors that hurt the eyes, and his skin seemed to be cracking open to reveal something luminous beneath. The only constant was his eyes, galaxies spinning in endless voids, focusing on them with terrible intensity. "Bulma," he said, his voice echoing strangely as if speaking from multiple throats at once. "They're gone. Help me find them." Vegeta stepped in front of Bulma protectively, his own aura flaring gold as he transformed. "Kakarot, control yourself. Your power is disrupting the fabric of reality." Goku's attention shifted to Vegeta, and the prince visibly flinched under that cosmic gaze. "I can see all possible versions of you, Vegeta," Goku said, his tone eerily calm compared to the chaos of his appearance. "In every reality where Bulma dies, you become this." He gestured, and suddenly a vision appeared in the air between them, a gaunt, hollow-eyed Vegeta, surrounded by destruction. Madness etched into every line of his face. "Stop it, Kakarot," Vegeta shouted, but his voice lacked its usual conviction. Bulma pushed past Vegeta's protective arm, approaching the hovering figure of her oldest friend. Decades of facing the unknown gave her courage few humans could muster. "Goku," she said firmly, as if addressing a child having a tantrum rather than a reality-warping being of incomprehensible power. "Tell me exactly what happened. Who's gone?" The swirling chaos of Goku's new form seemed to steady somewhat at her practical question. The multiple overlapping versions of him consolidated into a single image, though still wreathed in that strange, shifting aura. Chi-Chi, Gohan, Goten. Each name emerged as a physical thing, hanging in the air as characters formed of light. Erased by a being from the void. Not killed, unmade. His voice broke on the last word, the sound splintering into harmonic fragments. Bulma's scientific mind raced, trying to contextualize what he was saying. Erased how? Disintegrated. Transported. There must be evidence, residual energy, something. Nothing left, Goku interrupted. Not even dust. It opened holes in reality and they fell through. His form flickered again, rage momentarily distorting his features into something inhuman. It said they were consumed. Removed from the probability matrix. But I know they still exist somewhere. I can feel them, like echoes. Vegeta and Bulma exchanged glances. This was beyond any threat they had faced before, not an enemy to be defeated through strength or strategy, but a fundamental violation of how reality worked. Goku, Bulma said carefully, you need to power down. Whatever this transformation is, it's causing temporal distortions that could potentially destroy the universe. We can't help Chi-Chi and the boys if reality itself collapses. For a terrible moment, she thought he might refuse, or worse, that he might be unable to revert to his normal state. Then, gradually, the cosmic fire in his eyes dimmed. The strange colors receded from his hair, which returned to its normal black spikes. The cracks in his skin sealed themselves. Within moments, he read almost normal again, except for a faint, barely perceptible aura that seemed to shift at the corner of the eye, like heat distortion on a summer day. He dropped to the floor of the lab, suddenly looking exhausted. But when he raised his head, Bulma was startled by the clarity in his eyes. Goku had always possessed a certain childlike quality, an innocence that persisted despite all he had experienced. That was gone now, replaced by something ancient and knowing. I remember everything, he said softly. Every timeline, every possibility. While I was transformed, I could see them all simultaneously. The paths not taken, the worlds that might have been. He looked down at his hands, turning them over as if they belonged to someone else. Even now, the knowledge remains. Dimmer, but present. Kakarot, Vegeta said, powering down to his base form now that the immediate threat had passed. What exactly happened to you out there? I don't have a name for it, Goku replied. But it felt like all the barriers broke. The limits that separate my consciousness from the universe, from other dimensions, from time itself, they all shattered at once. He looked up, meeting their eyes with an unnervingly direct gaze. I think I became something I wasn't meant to be. Something dangerous, but potentially useful, Bulma interjected, her scientist's curiosity overriding caution. If this transformation allows you to perceive across dimensions, it might be the only way to find your family. If they still exist at all, Vegeta said bluntly, ignoring Bulma's sharp look. We must be realistic. If this void creature truly erased them from reality. They exist, Goku interrupted with absolute certainty. I felt them in the spaces between worlds. Faint, like reflections in dark water, but present. They've been displaced somehow, removed from our reality but not destroyed. Bulma nodded, already turning to her computers. Then we need to find them. I'll start recalibrating my dimensional sensors based on the data I collected during your transformation. If there are tears in the fabric of reality, we can locate them. Goku swayed slightly, fatigue evident in every line of his body. I need to find the others. Warn them. Whatever that void creature was, it might not have been the only one. You need to rest first, Bulma countered. That transformation took a massive toll on your body. I can see micro-fractures in your aura, like you've been shattered and poorly glued back together. I'm fine, Goku insisted, though he looked anything but. You're not, came a new voice from the shattered window. They turned to see Caulifla hovering outside, her expression uncharacteristically serious. The Universe 6 Saiyan had been visiting Earth for training, part of an exchange program established after the Tournament of Power. Your key is all wrong, she continued, landing lightly on the lab floor. I felt the disturbance from the other side of the planet. Came as fast as I could. She approached Goku, circling him with narrowed eyes. What did you do to yourself? Your energy signature is fractured. It's a long story, Vegeta interjected. I've got time, Caulifla replied, crossing her arms stubbornly. As Bulma explained what little they knew, Caulifla's expression grew increasingly troubled. Unlike her usual brash demeanor, she remained silent, studying Goku. an intensity that suggested she was seeing more than the others could. So let me get this straight, she said when Bulma finished. Some void thing attacked, took your family, and you went super OVA with a brand new transformation that nobody's ever seen before. And now reality itself is getting wonky. That's a simplification, but yes, Bulma confirmed. Caulifla approached Goku, fearlessly reaching out to touch his shoulder. Hey, look at me. Goku raised his eyes to meet hers. Something passed between them. A recognition, perhaps, of the Saiyan heritage they shared despite coming from different universes. Your power isn't stabilized, she said bluntly. I can see it trying to break out again. Whatever this transformation is, you didn't master it, it mastered you. And that's gonna get you killed, or worse. I don't have a choice, Goku replied, his voice low and intense. I need that power to find them. Then you need to control it, not the other way around, Caulifla insisted. And to do that, you need to understand it. What triggered it exactly? Raw emotion, something specific about the attack. Goku closed his eyes, recalling the moment. Helplessness, he finally said. I've faced enemies stronger than me before. I've died, watched friends die. But I've always been able to fight back, to have some impact. This was different. My attacks did nothing. My techniques meant nothing. I was completely powerless to stop what was happening. His voice grew hoarse. And then when Chi-Chi looked at me, when I saw the faith in her eyes even as she was being erased, something broke inside me. Caulifla nodded slowly. Rage born of love and helplessness. That tracks with Saiyan legend, actually. This caught Vegeta's attention. What legend? Something my brother Renzo told me when I was young. A story about the original Super Saiyan God. She shrugged. In our universe, the legend says the transformation came from righteousness against evil. But there was an other version, that it came from a warrior who watched his family murdered before his eyes and could do nothing to stop it. His rage transcended the physical and tapped into something cosmic. That sounds like what happened to me, Goku said, but different. When I've used God Ki before, it felt controlled, channeled. This was raw, unfiltered, like I was connecting directly to something fundamental. Bulma's computer suddenly emitted a series of urgent beeps. She rushed to check the readings, her expression growing increasingly alarmed. We've got a problem, she announced. The temporal anomalies haven't stopped. They're still expanding outward from the point where Goku transformed. And they're accelerating. What does that mean in terms we can understand? Vegeta demanded. Bulma led up a holographic display showing Earth with a spreading wave of distortion emanating from Mount Paozu. It means that reality itself was damaged by whatever happened. The fabric of space-time is unraveling, and the effect is spreading. At the current rate, it will envelop the entire planet within 24 hours. And then what? Caulifla asked, staring at the ominous visualization. I don't know, Bulma admitted. Best case, time becomes unstable, with effects similar to what Whis can do with his staff but uncontrolled, people experiencing different rates of time passage, cause and effect becoming untethered. That sort of thing. Worst case, the timeline fractures completely, creating an infinite number of divergent realities until the multiverse itself collapses under the strain. Eyelids fell as they absorbed this information. So I didn't just lose my family, Goku said quietly. I may have doomed the entire universe. We don't know that yet, Bulma countered. And we're getting ahead of ourselves. First priority is stabilizing your new power before it causes more damage. Second is understanding exactly what those void creatures are and where they took your family. Third is figuring out how to reverse the temporal anomalies. And we need to warn the others, Vegeta added. If more of these void beings appear, they need to know conventional attacks won't work. All help, Caulifla volunteered unexpectedly. When the others looked at her in surprise, she shrugged with forced casualness. What? This affects my universe too if the multiverse is collapsing. Besides, I want to understand this new transformation. If Goku can do it, maybe I can too. Goku managed a weak smile, the first since his arrival. Thanks, Caulifla, I could use the help. He straightened, some of his old determination returning. Bulma, start working on tracking the dimensional rifts. Vegeta, contact everyone who might be able to help. Piccolo, Krillin, the Supreme Kai if you can reach him. Caulifla, Help me figure out how to control this new power without destroying reality. As they dispersed to their tasks, Goku gazed out through the shattered window at the seemingly peaceful day outside. The sky was blue, clouds drifted lazily overhead, birds sang in nearby trees, all completely oblivious to the catastrophe unfolding on a level most beings couldn't perceive. "I'll find you," he whispered. A promise to his missing family and a warning to whatever had taken them. "Whatever it takes, I'll bring you home." In the depths of his being, he felt the new power stir in response, eager, hungry, terrible in its potential. He would need to master it quickly, or it would master him. And if that happened, he feared there might be nothing left of Son Goku when the rage finally subsided. The training room at Capsule Corporation had been designed to withstand the most powerful beings in the universe. Its walls were reinforced with alien alloys, its gravity generators could simulate forces that would crush planets. And its energy-dampening systems could absorb and redirect attacks that could shatter moons. It wasn't enough. Again, Caulifla demanded, picking herself up from where she had been thrown against the far wall. Blood trickled from a cut on her forehead, but her eyes shone with excitement rather than fear. "This time, try to channel it through your center, not your extremities." Goku stood in the middle of the room, his body trembling with effort as he tried to access the new power without losing control. Each attempt resulted in destructive energy surges that the room's systems barely contained. "I don't think you understand," he said, breathing heavily. "It's not like other transformations. It doesn't come from my ki. It comes from outside me. Like I'm just a conduit for something larger." "Then be a better conduit," Caulifla retorted, undaunted. "You're approaching this like a Saiyan, trying to dominate the power through sheer will. Try approaching it like, I don't know, like Whis would. With finesse." Goku closed his eyes, considering her words. She had a point. Each of his transformations had required a different mental approach. Super Saiyan needed emotional intensity. God Ki required calm harmony. Ultra Instinct demanded the emptying of conscious thought. This new power, what should he call it? Supreme Rage seemed fitting, required something else entirely. "Cover your eyes," he warned Caulifla. Then, rather than pushing from within as he normally would, he opened himself completely, becoming a vessel for whatever wanted to flow through him. The effect was immediate and stunning. Reality seemed to crack around him, fractures appearing in the air itself. His body lifted from the floor, suspended by forces that defied conventional physics. The familiar rush of transformation swept through him, but instead of the warm fire of ki, this felt like being filled with liquid starlight, cold, brilliant, and impossibly ancient. Caulifla watched in awe as Goku's form shifted. His hair rose not in the defiance of gravity typical of Super Saiyan, but as if it were underwater, flowing in currents invisible to ordinary perception. Colors pled through it that seemed to exist in dimensions beyond the standard spectrum. His eyes changed last, pupils expanding until they seemed to contain spiral galaxies in miniature. "Holy shit," she breathed, forgetting her usual bravado in the face of something truly transcendent. "You look impossible." Goku turned to her, movements unnaturally fluid, as if the normal constraints of time affected him differently. When he spoke, his voice resonated with harmonics that made the air vibrate. "I can see everything," he said wonderingly. "Every possibility, every branch of reality stemming from this moment." He looked down at his hands, which seemed to phase in and out of solidity. "I can see where the walls between dimensions are thinnest, where they can be crossed." Caulifla approached cautiously, her scientific curiosity overcoming instinctive fear. "What does it feel like?" "Like drowning in knowledge," he replied. "Like being everywhere and everywhen simultaneously. I can feel the thoughts of everyone on Earth, not clearly. But like background noise. And beyond Earth." He frowned, the expression otherworldly on his transformed face. "Something's watching us, something old. It knows what I've become, and it's concerned. Can you control it?" Caulifla asked, circling him with professional assessment. "The power, I mean. Can you direct it, or is it directing you?" Goku raised a hand experimentally. Reality rippled around his fingers like water. "Both, I think. It has its own agenda isn't quite right. Its own nature. But I can channel it, guide it, like steering a river rather than damming it." He closed his eyes, concentrating. A small tear opened in the air before him, not the destructive void from which the creature had emerged, but a controlled opening, edges glowing with the same shifting colors as his aura. Through the opening, they could see what appeared to be another version of the training room, identical except for subtle differences. In that version, Vegeta stood where Caulifla was, watching with arms crossed. A parallel reality, Goku explained, his voice strained with effort. One where Vegeta is helping me train instead of you. That's terrifying and amazing. Caulifla admitted. Can you find the reality where your family was taken? Goku's expression darkened, the colors in his aura shifting toward deeper, more ominous hues. That's the problem. They weren't taken to another reality. They were taken to the space between realities. The void. And I can sense it, but I can't quite reach it yet. The tear sealed itself as Goku's concentration wavered. He dropped back to the floor, the transformation receding partially, leaving him in a state somewhere between his normal appearance and the full cosmic form. His hair retained some of the unusual movement and color, and his eyes still held faint galaxies, but the reality-distorting aura had diminished. Progress, Caulifla noted approvingly. You maintained partial control and didn't blow up the building. I call that a win. It's still not enough, Goku said, frustration evident in his voice. I need to be able to fully control this power without losing myself in it. And I need to do it quickly. The temporal anomalies are still spreading. A soft alert chimed from the intercom. Goku, Caulifla, Bulma's voice called. I need you in the lab immediately. I've found something. They exchanged glances, hope kindling. Without waiting, Goku placed a hand on Caulifla's shoulder and instant transmitted them both to Bulma's lab. They materialized in what looked like organized chaos. Every screen and holographic display was active, showing complex data patterns, spatial models, and energy readouts. Bulma stood in the center of it all, directing the flow of information with practiced gestures. She looked exhausted but exhilarated, the expression she always wore when on the verge of a breakthrough. Good timing, she said without preamble. I've detected a pattern in the temporal anomalies. They're not random, they're forming a specific geometric configuration. She brought up a three-dimensional model that resembled a complex crystalline structure. It's a lattice that extends across dimensions. Meaning what, exactly? Caulifla asked, crossing her arms. Meaning that the damage to our reality isn't a side effect, it's deliberate, Bulma explained grimly. These patterns match theoretical models for a dimensional bridge, a structure that could allow mass transit between separate realities. Goku frowned, his partially transformed state making the expression unnervingly alien. You think the void creature was, what? Building something, preparing the groundwork. At least, Bulma confirmed. By erasing key points in our dimension, including, tragically, family, it created anchor points for this lattice structure. It's like, imagine reality as fabric. It removed threads in a specific pattern that weakens the whole cloth in a way that can be exploited. But why target my family specifically? Goku asked, the colors in his aura darkening with renewed anger. Why not anyone else? Bulma hesitated, then replied carefully. I think because of who you are, Goku. Your power, your importance to this timeline. You've altered the course of history so many times that you and those connected to you represent significant nexus points in the fabric of reality. So my family was erased because they're connected to me, Goku said flatly. Because I made them targets. Don't go down that road, Caulifla interrupted sharply. Guilt is pointless. Focus on fixing the problem. Bulma nodded agreement. She's right. And there's more. I've been analyzing the energy signature from your transformation, Goku. It resonates with the structural pattern of the dimensional lattice. Almost as if, quote, as if my transformation and the void creature's actions are connected somehow, Goku finished, a chill running through him despite the cosmic power still flowing through his veins. Like two sides of the same coin. Exactly, Bulma confirmed, which gives us both a problem and an opportunity. The problem is that your supreme rage form, nice name, by the why, might actually be accelerating the breakdown of dimensional barriers. But the opportunity is that you might be able to use that same resonance to navigate to wherever your family was taken. The void between, Goku murmured. That's what the creature called it before I destroyed it. The lab door slid open, admitting Vegeta accompanied by Piccolo. Both warriors stopped short at the sight of Goku's partially transformed state. "What happened to you?" Piccolo demanded, his usually stoic expression giving way to shock. "Long story," Caulifla cut in. "Short version. New transformation, reality breaking, dimensional crisis. Try to keep up." Piccolo scowled at her flippant tone but turned his attention to Bulma. "We've confirmed your readings from multiple locations. The temporal anomalies are spreading exponentially. Den says they're affecting even the lookout, which should be protected by its extra-dimensional properties." "What about Beerus and Whis?" Goku asked. "Any word from them?" Vegeta shook his head. "Nothing. Which is concerning. They should have sensed this level of disturbance immediately. Unless something is preventing them from reaching us," Bulma theorized. "These dimensional disruptions might be interfering with travel between realms. Which means we're on our own," Piccolo concluded grimly. "Not entirely," came a new voice from the doorway. They turned to see Mai, not the young woman they knew, but an older version, her hair streaked with gray, face lined with experience. She wore battle-worn armor of unfamiliar design, and her eyes held the haunted look of someone who had seen too much. "My," Bulma gasped. "But you're from another timeline," the woman confirmed. "Not the one you know. I've come because what's happening here will soon affect all realities if not stopped." Her gaze fixed on Goku, studying his transformed state with knowing eyes. "So it's begun here too. The awakening. You know about this?" Goku asked, gesturing to his altered appearance. Mai nodded, entering the lab fully and closing the door behind her. "In my timeline, it happened to Vegeta instead of you. The results were catastrophic." She glanced at the Saiyan prince, who stiffened at her words. "No offense. What do you mean, the awakening?" Bulma pressed. "It's what the council calls it," Mai explained, leaning wearily against a console. "The Council of Observers. They monitor power fluctuations across all dimensions, maintaining the balance between creation and destruction. When a mortal ascends to this level," she nodded toward Goku, "they consider it a breach of cosmic law." "Wait," Caulifla interjected. "Are you saying there's some interdimensional police force that's pissed off because Goku got a power upgrade?" "It's not just a power upgrade," Mai corrected sharply. "What you're calling supreme rage is actually an emotional resonance with fundamental forces of the multiverse. Emotion itself is a cosmic force, as foundational as time or gravity. Most beings experience it personally, internally. But in rare cases, individuals can tap into the universal emotional field directly." She pointed at Goku. "That's what he's done. He's become a conduit for rage on a cosmic scale." Silence fell as they absorbed this information. "The void creatures," Goku finally said. "They work for this council." Mai's expression darkened. "No, they're something else entirely. Entities from spaces that should not exist. Remnants of discarded timelines and erased universes. They dwell in the void between, the non-space that separates realities. And why want revenge on existence itself for their exile? So we're caught between cosmic police and nihilistic void monsters." Bulma summarized with grim humor. "Wonderful. The council didn't send that creature to take Goku's family." Mai continued. "The void entities did that deliberately, to trigger his awakening. They needed the resulting dimensional fractures to build their bridge." "Why?" Piccolo demanded. "What do they gain from breaking down barriers between dimensions?" "Access," Mai replied simply. "Currently, they can only slip through in limited ways, as the creature that attacked Goku's family did. But with a fully formed dimensional bridge, they could pour into all realities simultaneously. Erasing as they go, expanding the void, unmaking existence piece by piece." The implications were staggering. This wasn't just a threat to Earth or even their universe, but to the entire multiverse, all possible realities facing systematic erasure. "So where are Chi-Chi and my sons?" Goku asked, his voice quiet but intense. The cosmic power swirling more visibly around him as his emotions heightened. "In the void between," Mai confirmed. "Not erased completely, but displaced, removed from our reality and held in the non-space. They're being used as anchor points for the dimensional bridge. Their connections to you, emotional, biological, spiritual, create unique resonance patterns that strengthen the structure." "Can they be rescued?" Goku pressed. Mai hesitated. "In my timeline, we tried. Vegeta attempted to use his awakened state to enter the void between. He succeeded in reaching it, but the power corrupted him. He became lost between realities, neither fully in one nor the other. Eventually, she trailed off, unwilling to finish the thought. What? Vegeta demanded harshly. You became something else, Mai said softly. Neither human nor Saiyan nor God. An entity of pure rage, untethered from your original personality. You began erasing realities yourself, me. RGING with the very forces you sought to fight. Vegeta paled slightly but maintained his proud stance. Kakarot is not me. His control has always been superior to mine, loath as I am to admit it. True, Mai acknowledged, which is why I came to this timeline when I detected his awakening. There might be a chance here that we didn't have in mind. How did you even get here? Bulma asked. If dimensional travel is being disrupted. I used a time ring, Mai explained, showing a familiar green ring on her finger. But it's damaged now, burned out from navigating through the fracturing dimensions. I'm stranded here, so what do we do? Caulifla asked, voicing the question on everyone's mind. How do we stop the void creatures, rescue Goku's family, and prevent the collapse of the multiverse? Preferably without him turning into an emotion monster. Mai straightened, her weariness giving way to determination. We need to stabilize his awakened state first. The supreme rage form is only one aspect of the emotional spectrum he can access. In its pure form, rage is destructive, uncontrolled, exactly what the void entities want. But if he can learn to channel other emotional resonances. Like what? Goku asked. Hope, compassion, serenity, joy, love. Mai listed them clinically, but her eyes softened slightly. The full spectrum of cosmic emotional forces. If you can balance the rage with these other aspects, you might achieve what we call the harmony state, a controlled version of your awakened form that doesn't fracture reality around it. And then what? Piccolo asked skeptically. Even if Goku masters this power, how does that solve our other problems? One step at a time, Mai replied. First, we stabilize him and halt the spreading temporal anomalies. Then, we can attempt to access the void between in a controlled way to rescue his family. Finally, we close the dimensional bridge the void entities are creating. You make it sound so simple, Bulma commented dryly. It isn't, Mai agreed. In fact, it's probably impossible, but it's the only plan we've got. Goku, who had been unusually quiet during this exchange, finally spoke up. I'll do whatever it takes. Tell me how to achieve this harmony state. Mai studied him for a long moment, as if weighing something in her mind. Finally, she nodded. It requires emotional anchors, people who can help you connect with different aspects of the emotional spectrum. In my timeline, Vegeta failed because he tried to do it alone, relying solely on his own emotional capacity. Emotional anchors, Caulifla repeated dubiously. What does that mean exactly? People who can help him channel specific emotional resonances, Mai explained. For instance, someone who embodies hope or compassion in his life. Someone who represents joy or serenity. And most importantly, someone who represents love, unconditional, pure love. Chi-Chi would be that person, Goku said softly. But she's gone. Then we need substitutes, Mai replied pragmatically. People who have strong emotional connections to you, who can help stabilize your awakened state until we can rescue your true anchors. Bulma glanced at Caulifla speculatively. You said there's a connection between Goku's power and Saiyan heritage. Would another Saiyan make a good emotional anchor? Potentially, Mai confirmed, especially one who shares certain emotional resonances with him. The species connection would strengthen the bond. Caulifla shifted uncomfortably as all eyes turned to her. What? Don't look at me like that. I barely know the guy. But you do respect him. Vegeta observed shrewdly. I've seen how you watch him when you train. You admire his power, his techniques. Perhaps you could serve as an anchor for, what? Pride, ambition, determination, Mai suggested. The drive to improve, to overcome, to evolve. It's a powerful emotional resonance, and distinctly Saiyan in its expression. Caulifla crossed her arms defensively. Fine, whatever. If it helps save the multiverse, I guess I can be his determination anchor, or whatever. Bulma, Mai continued, turning to the scientist. You represent hope and innovation, the belief that problems can be solved. That the future can be better than the present. Your friendship with Goku is one of the oldest and most consistent in his life. You would make an excellent anchor for hope. Bulma blinked in surprise, then nodded firmly. Of course, whatever Goku needs. What about the others? Piccolo asked. You said he needs multiple anchors. Mai surveyed the room thoughtfully. Ideally, we need 5 total, 1 for each of the primary emotional resonances. Caulifla for determination, Bulma for hope. Piccolo, your relationship with Goku has evolved from enmity to respect to friendship. You could represent serenity, the calm center in the storm of emotions. The Namekian raised an eyebrow but didn't object. That leaves compassion and love, Mai continued. Compassion might be represented by someone like Krillin or Dend, beings who value all life and have shown mercy even to enemies. But love, she frowned. Without Chi-Chi, that's the most difficult resonance to anchor. What about his love for his sons? Vegeta suggested unexpectedly. Could that work in reverse? Could his love for them anchor him rather than requiring someone else's love? Mai considered this unorthodox, but potentially viable. Self-generated emotional resonance is unstable, but if it's focused on specific individuals, even absent ones, it might serve as a temporary anchor. Goku, W.H.O. had been listening to this discussion with growing impatience, finally interrupted. Enough talk. How do we actually do this? How do I connect with these anchors? Through a ritual of sorts, Mai explained. Each anchor must help you access the emotional resonance they represent. Not superficially, but deeply, reaching the cosmic level of that emotion. It will create a network of stabilizing influences around your awakened state. And then I can control the supreme rage without destroying reality. Goku clarified. In theory, Mai confirmed. It worked partially in my timeline, before. She glanced at Vegeta again. Then away. Before complications arose. Then let's get started, Goku decided. The longer we wait, the more the temporal anomalies spread, and the further away my family might be taken. Mai nodded, her expression solemn. Very well, but understand this, what we're attempting has never been successfully completed in any timeline I know of. The risks are enormous, not just to you but to everyone involved. The emotional anchors will be connecting to cosmic forces beyond mortal comprehension. It could change them permanently. Bulma stepped forward without hesitation. I've been friends with Goku since he was a child. I've watched him save our world more times than I can count. If he needs me now, I won't hesitate. Same here, Piccolo agreed simply. Caulifla shrugged, affecting nonchalance despite the gravity of the situation. Sounds interesting at least. Count me in, and I will monitor the ritual, Vegeta declared. Someone needs to maintain objective distance in case something goes wrong. Quote, Goku looked at each of them in turn, his expression unusually serious. Thank you, he said quietly. I couldn't do this alone. You're never alone, Goku, Bulma told him with a warm smile. That's something you've never quite understood. Your greatest strength isn't your power, it's the bonds you've formed with others. And now those bonds might save everything. As they began preparations for the ritual, guided by Mai's instructions, none of them noticed the subtle distortion in the corner of the lab, a tiny tear in reality through which something watched with cold, patient malice. Something that had been waiting for precisely this moment, when the barriers between dimensions would be at their most vulnerable. The hunt for Chi-Chi, Gohan, and Goten was about to begin. But so too was a greater conflict, one that would determine the fate of all possible worlds and the very nature of existence itself. Chapter 2. Ripples across realities. Light Casca, dead in geometric patterns across the reinforced walls of Capsule Corp's subterranean chamber. Bulma had repurposed this forgotten research space, once used for gravitational experiments during the Earl-Y days of the gravity chamber's development, into a makeshift ritual arena. Ancient symbols borrowed from half a dozen civilizations curved along the floor in concentric circles, drawn with meticulous precision using compounds containing trace elements from beyond Earth. Are you sure about this? Vegeta's voice echoed in the cavernous room as he inspected the elaborate preparations. These markings come from the Yardrat spiritual tradition. They were notably unstable in their metaphysical experiments. The Yardrats understood dimensional resonance better than most, Mai replied, her tone leaving no room for argument as she calibrated instruments at the chamber's perimeter. There, instability, came from their willingness to explore what others feared. The time-displaced warrior had shed her battle armor, now wearing a simple black bodysuit etched with silver circuitry, technology from a future that might never exist in this timeline. Her movements were economical, precise, each adjustment to the equipment deliberate. The haunted look never quite left her eyes. Besides, she continued, we're not using pure Yardrat methodology. I've incorporated stabilizing elements from Namekian meditation circles, Saiyan battle mandalas, and even some of Bulma's quantum field harmonizers. Bulma looked up from her tablet, where she monitored energy patterns throughout the complex, which might work perfectly or catastrophically fail. Theoretical physics isn't exactly an exact science when we're dealing with extra-dimensional emotional resonance. At the center of the innermost circle, Goku sat cross-legged, eyes closed, maintaining the precarious balance of his partially transformed state. The galaxy-like patterns in his eyes had dimmed to faint spirals, and his hair undulated gently, cosmic colors rippling through it like aurora borealis. Around him, at precise intervals marking the cardinal directions, sat his emotional anchors. Caulifla fidgeted in the eastern position, UNC. Comfortable with meditation but determined to play her part. How much longer do we wait? This sitting around is driving me crazy. Patience is part of the process, Piccolo admonished from the northern point, his posture perfect. Eyes closed in deep meditation. Center yourself. Easy for you to say, Green Bean. Meditation is your whole thing. Bulma suppressed a smile from the western position. Focus on why we're here, Caulifla. The multiverse is at stake, and Goku's family. I know, the universe 6 Saiyan sighed. Sorry, sitting still has never been my strong suit. The southern position, representing love, remained conspicuously empty, a gap in the formation that seemed to distort the chamber's carefully balanced energies. Mai frowned at the readings on her wrist device. The asymmetry is creating fluctuations. We need that fourth anchor. I told you, Vegeta insisted, arms crossed as he observed from beyond the outermost circle, Kakarot's self-generated emotional resonance should work. And I told you it's unstable, Mai countered. Self-generated emotional anchors are like trying to lift yourself by pulling on your own bootstraps, a logical impossibility. A soft C. Haim interrupted their debate, the compound security system announcing an arrival. Moments later, the heavy door to the chamber slid open with a pneumatic hiss, admitting a tall, blue-skinned figure, whose very presence seemed to bend light slightly around her. Perhaps I might be of assistance, Vados said, her staff tapping lightly against the floor as she entered. The angel's perpetually composed expression revealed nothing, but her eyes, ancient and knowing, fixed immediately on Goku's transformed state. Vados, Bulma exclaimed, surprise evident in her voice. How did you get here? We couldn't reach any of the divine realms. With considerable difficulty, the angel admitted, her melodious voice carrying an unusual note of strain. The dimensional disturbances have affected even the pathways between divine realms. Lord Champa is quite displeased about being temporarily stranded in Lord Beerus's domain. Caulifla perked up at the mention of her universe's god of destruction. So you know what's happening. Indeed, Vados confirmed, approaching the ritual circle with measured steps. The ripples from Son Goku's transformation have reached even the highest planes of existence. The Grand Priest has called an emergency council of all angels. Her gaze swept the elaborate preparations with professional assessment. This approach is innovative, if crude. Mai bristled sly, TLY at the implied criticism but held her tongue. Can you help us? Goku asked, opening his eyes for the first time since entering his meditative state. The galaxy-like patterns swirled more actively as he focused on Vados. The angel studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. You've accessed something you were never meant to touch, Son Goku. The emotional substrate of reality itself. Not by choice, he replied simply. No, she agreed, surprising them with her sympathetic tone. You were manipulated by entities that understand the cosmic balance far too well for beings that should not exist. She turned to Mai. You need a fourth anchor, yes. For the emotional resonance of love. Mai nodded cautiously. The strongest anchor would be his wife, but she has been displaced to the void between. Vados finished. I sensed the disturbance when it happened. A significant tear in the fabric of reality. Can you bring them back? Goku asked, hope flaring so intensely the air around him rippled with prismatic energy. Vados shook her head. Not directly, no. Even angels have limitations when dealing with the void between. It exists outside the jurisdiction of the divine hierarchy. She approached the empty southern position of the circle. However, I can serve as a temporary anchor for the resonance you require. Vegeta sounded skeptical. Angels aren't exactly known for their emotional depth. No offense. A common misconception, Vados replied with the faintest hint of amusement. Angels do not indulge emotions as mortals do, but we understand the perfectly, perhaps more perfectly than any other beings in existence. We must, to maintain the balance. Without waiting for further discussion, she seated herself gracefully in the empty position, her staff laid across her lap. I can channel the pure conceptual essence of love, not the personal, specific love Goku feels for his wife, but the cosmic principle of love itself. Will that work? Bulma asked Mai. The Time Warrior checked her readings, brow furrowed. Theoretically, yes. It's not ideal, but the resonance pattern is stabilizing already just from her presence in the formation. Then let's begin, Goku said with uncharacteristic urgency. Every moment we delay, the temporal anomalies spread further. Mai nodded, taking up a position at the circle's edge. Each anchor must help Goku connect with the emotional resonance they represent. Not just intellectually, but viscerally, at the quantum level of consciousness. Start with determination, she instructed, looking to Caulifla. Then we'll move clockwise. Hope, serenity, and finally love. Caulifla straightened her posture, suddenly serious despite her earlier restlessness. Right, so, how exactly do I do that? Speak from your core, Mai instructed. Share what determination means to you, how it drives you. Then establish physical contact to create the resonance bridge. The Universe 6 Saiyan took a deep breath, looking uncomfortable with the vulnerability required. But when she spoke, her voice carried conviction that transcended her usual bravado. Determination isn't just about wanting to win, she began, eyes locked with Goku's. It's about continuing when everything tells you to stop. When I first tried to reach Super Saiyan, I failed hundreds of times. Each failure burnt like acid in my veins. But I kept pushing, not because I'm stubborn, though I am, but because I glimpsed something greater than myself. Her voice dropped, becoming intimate despite their audience. You showed me that, Goku. When we fought in the Tournament of Power, you weren't just stronger, you were more determined. Even at your limits, you found new depths. As she spoke, the air between them seemed to thicken, taking on a faintly golden hue that mirrored the color of Super Saiyan aura. Determination is the refusal to accept limits, Caulifla continued, her own aura beginning to manifest unconsciously. It's knowing you. Our family still exists when everyone says they're gone. It's fighting for them across dimensions. It's believing when belief seems foolish. She reached forward, pressing her palm against Goku's chest, directly over his heart. My determination is your determination. Unbreakable, unending. Let it anchor you against the rage. A visible pulse of energy transferred between them, not key in the conventional sense. But something more fundamental. Goku gasped as it flooded through him, his chaotic aura momentarily streamlining into more coherent patterns. Where Caulifla touched him, the energy stability zed into a clear golden light that spread through the cosmic colors of his transformation. Remarkable, Vados murmured, watching the energy patterns with ancient eyes that perceived far more than the others could. She's actualizing the conceptual framework of determination at the quantum level. Mai checked her instruments, nodding with cautious optimism. First resonance stable. Bulma, you're next. The scientist took a centering breath, her analytical mind momentarily setting aside the impossibility of what they were attempting. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of decades of friendship. Hope isn't blind optimism, she began. I'm a scientist. I deal in probabilities and evidence. But hope is what fills the gaps when knowledge fails. It's the hypothesis that drives you to experiment even when conventional wisdom says you'll fail. Her eyes, sharp with intelligence, softened as she regarded Goku. When I met you as a girl, you changed my understanding of what was possible. A child with a tale and impossible strength, you made me question everything I thought I knew. Bulma leaned forward, her expression earnest. Every time Earth has faced destruction, when rational analysis said we were doomed. You represented hope, not because you're the strongest, though often you are, but because you refuse to acknowledge impossibility. You hope without limits, Goku. And that hope has saved us all countless times. She extended her hand, palm upward, offering rather than imposing. My hope is your hope. Boundless. Brilliant. Let it light your way through darkness. Goku placed his hand in hers, and blue-white energy spiraled between them, reminiscent of the pure innovation energy Bulma occasionally manifested when making her greatest breakthroughs. It merged with the golden determination energy from Caulifla, creating complex patterns that further stabilized Goku's transformation. The chamber's atmosphere grew heavier, charged with potential as reality itself seemed to bend slightly around the ritual circle. Outside, monitoring systems recorded fluctuations in the temporal anomalies, not expansion now, but oscillation, as if uncertain whether to grow or recede. Piccolo opened his eyes as his turn arrived, the Namekian's gaze ancient despite his relatively youthful appearance. When he spoke, his deep voice resonated with the chamber's unique acoustics. Serenity isn't passivity, he stated. Characteristic bluntness softened by genuine insight. It's not surrender or detachment. True serenity comes from perfect understanding of your place in the cosmos, not above or below, but precisely where you belong. His eyes narrowed slightly. You and I began as enemies, Goku. I was born to kill you. Yet here I sit, helping to anchor your sanity. There is profound serenity in accepting such transformation. The Namekian's green aura manifested, not as a flame but as still water, perfectly reflecting the energies around it. Serenity is the eye of the hurricane. Chaos may rage, but the center holds. Your rage is justified, Goku, but it must not consume you. Find the stillness within the storm. Piccolo extended both hands, palms facing Goku. My serenity is your serenity. Centered, unwavering. Let it balance the chaos of your rage. Goku pressed his palms against Piccolo's, and verdant energy flowed between them, not transferring but equalizing, finding perfect balance. It spread through Goku's aura, creating zones of absolute calm within the cosmic maelstrom of his transformation. Mai's instruments recorded another shift in the temporal anomalies, the oscillations slowing, stabilizing. It's working, she reported. 3 resonances established and holding. Final anchor. Love. All eyes turned to Vados, whose serene expression remained unchanged. But when she spoke, her voice carried unusual depth, as if multiple harmonics resonated beneath her words. Love is perhaps the most misunderstood force in existence, she began, her staff glowing softly across her lap. Mortals reduce it to chemistry, sentiment, or passion. Gods view it as a mortal weakness. Both are profoundly mistaken. Love is the fundamental attractive force of consciousness itself, the tendency of awareness to recognize itself in others. Her usually playful demeanor had vanished completely, replaced by something ancient and solemn. Angels understand love as cosmic law, Son Goku. It is why destruction and creation must balance. Why life emerges from void. Why consciousness persists against entropy. The air around Vados shimmered with energy unlike anything they had ever witnessed. Not an aura as mortals produced, but a thinning of the veil between dimensions, revealing glimpses of realities beyond comprehension. Your love for your family transcends the physical plane, she continued. It exists as quantum entanglement across dimensional barriers. Even now, that connection persists. Chi-Chi, Gohan, Goten, they remain linked to you despite their displacement to the void between. A subtle smile curved her lips. This is what the void entities failed to understand. By taking your family, they strengthened the very connections they sought to sever. Vados raised her staff, its crystal sphere pulsing with multidimensional light. I cannot grant you my love, for an angel's love is not personal but universal. Instead, I will amplify the love already within you, purify it, crystallize it. Transform it from emotion to cosmic principle. The sphere touched Goku's forehead, and the effect was immediate and stunning. Pure white light exploded outward, temporarily blinding everyone except Vados herself. When vision returned, Goku's transformation had changed dramatically. The chaotic, shifting colors had harmonized into a coherent spectrum that flowed in ordered patterns throughout his aura. His hair, previously writhing like tentacles, now moved in wave-like motions, cosmic colors rippling through it in predictable sequences. His eyes retained their galaxy-like appearance. But the spirals had stabilized, rotating with perfect symmetry. Most significantly, the reality-distorting effects around him had vanished, replaced by a field of perfect clarity. Qi seemed to enhance rather than disrupt the physical laws of the universe. The harmony state, Mai whispered, awe evident in her voice. He's achieved it. Goku rose to his feet in one fluid motion, his movements carrying new grace and precision. When he spoke, his voice still contained the cosmic harmonics of his transformed state, but controlled now, focused. I can feel them, he said, wonder suffusing his tone. Not just my family, but everything, every person on Earth, every consciousness in this solar system. The connections between all living things. He raised his hands, examining them with new understanding. I can see the pathways between dimensions. The weak points. The places where reality thins. The ritual worked better than anticipated, Mai said, checking her instruments. The temporal anomalies are stabilizing. Not receding yet, but no longer expanding. Because he's no longer fighting the transformation, Vados explained, rising gracefully to her feet. The Rage form isn't inherently destructive, it's the resistance to it that causes reality to fracture. By embracing the power while anchoring it in balanced emotional resonance, Son Goku has achieved harmony with cosmic forces. So what now? Caulifla asked, climbing to her feet and stretching after the intense ritual. He's got control. How does that help us find his family? It allows me to ch the void between without fracturing reality further, Goku answered before anyone else could respond. I can create controlled passages rather than tearing holes in the dimensional fabric. That's still incredibly dangerous, Mai warned. The void between isn't meant for living beings. It's anti-reality, a space where the normal laws of physics and consciousness don't apply. I don't care about the danger, Goku replied, his voice carrying unusual steel. My family is trapped there. I'm going after them. Vados raised a slender hand. Not alone, you're not. Even in your harmony state, you would be vulnerable to the void entities in their native environment. You're coming with me? Goku asked, surprise evident despite his transformed state. Not exactly, the angel replied. I cannot directly enter the void between. It would violate certain cosmic principles that bind angels. However, I can guide you from the threshold. She turned to the others. And he will need a small team, fine. GS whose emotional resonances complement his own while adding necessary skills. I'm going, Caulifla declared immediately, crossing her arms as if daring anyone to argue. My determination resonance is strongest with him now. And I'm not staying behind while you all have interdimensional adventures. I should remain here, Bulma said reluctantly. Someone needs to monitor the dimensional stability from this side. And my scientific knowledge will be most useful as your anchor point in our reality. Piccolo nodded. I'll stay as well. My serenity resonance will help maintain the ritual circle's stability while Goku is in the void. Quote, I'm going, Mai stated flatly. I've had more experience with dimensional anomalies than anyone here except possibly Vados. My knowledge could prove crucial. And I will obviously accompany them. Vegeta declared, his tone brooking no argument. Someone with sense needs to keep Kakarot from doing anything more foolish than usual. Vados raised an eyebrow at the Saiyan Prince. Your presence could be problematic, Prince Vegeta. Your emotional signature is remarkably similar to Son Goku's in certain fundamental ways. Two such powerful resonances Chi create interference patterns in the void between. Meaning what, exactly? Vegeta demanded. Meaning you could inadvertently trigger another awakening, Mai explained grimly. The void entities WOU. LD love nothing more than a second supreme rage transformation to further weaken dimensional barriers. Before Vegeta could protest further, alarms blared throughout the complex. Bulma rushed to a console, pulling up security feeds from across Capsule Corporation's extensive grounds. We've got company, she announced tersely. Multiple spatial anomalies forming in the upper atmosphere. Something's coming through. The main display showed distortions appearing across West City's skyline, not the clean tears the void creature had created, but jagged, fractal patterns like shattered glass hanging in midair. Through these broken spaces, shapes were emerging, some humanoid, others defying description, all sharing the same quality of negative space that characterized the first void entity. The ritual energy attracted their attention. Mai realized, checking readings on her wrist device. They've found a way to exploit the dimensional weakening. How many? Goku asked, his voice calm but intense as he studied the feed. Dozens at least, Bulma replied, switching between camera views. And more appearing every minute. Goku's expression hardened, determination evident despite his transformed features. Then we change plans. First, we deal with this invasion. Then we rescue my family. Agreed, Vegeta said grimly, already moving toward the exit. These void creatures want to unmake our reality. Let's show them why that's a fatal mistake. Caulifla cracked her knuckles, a fierce grin spreading across her face. Finally, some action instead of sitting around drawing pretty energy patterns. This isn't a game, Piccolo warned sharply. Conventional attacks proved ineffective against the first void entity. We need strategy, not brute force. We have something better than both, Goku replied, his voice resonating with newfound confidence. He turned to Vados. The harmony state allows me to affect these creatures, doesn't it? To counter their negation properties. The angel inclined her head slightly. Indeed, your transformed state exists partially in the same dimensional frequency as their non-existence. You can interact with what they truly are, not merely their projections into our reality. Can you teach the others how to do the same? Goku asked. Not the transformation, but a way to affect these entities. Not quickly, Vados admitted. But there is an alternative. She raised her staff, its crystal sphere pulsing with multidimensional light. I can temporarily attune their energy to resonate with yours. A harmonic echo, if you will. It won't grant them your abilities. But it will allow their attacks to affect the void entities. Do it, Goku decided. Quickly. People are in danger. Without further discussion, Vados touched her staff to each of them in turn. Vegeta, Caulifla, Piccolo. Even Mai. As the crystal made contact, their auras briefly flared with hints of the cosmic colors that characterized Goku's transformation, before settling back into their normal hues with subtle iridescent undertones. The attunement will last approximately 1 hour, Vados informed them. Use it wisely. Bulma, Goku said, turning to his oldest friend, coordinate from here. We'll need tactical information about where these entities are appearing and what they're targeting. The blue-haired scientist nodded, already establishing a command center with practiced efficiency. I'm patching into the city's surveillance systems now. I'll direct you to the highest concentrations of void activity. What about civilians? Piccolo asked, ever practical. Emerg. NC protocols are automatically engaging, Bulma replied, gesturing to screens showing evacuation measures activating throughout West City. Underground shelters designed for extraterrestrial attacks should provide some protection. Though I can't guarantee they'll withstand reality-erasing entities. Then we make sure none get that far, Goku stated simply. He turned to the assembled fighters. We split into teams. Vegeta and Piccolo, take the eastern quadrant. Caulifla and Mai, the western. I'll handle the center where the concentration appears highest. Alone? Caulifla questioned, Consor. N briefly overriding her usual competitive nature. Goku's transformed features softened slightly. I'm not alone. I have all of you anchoring me now. He closed his eyes briefly, then opened them with renewed focus. Let's go. Without waiting for response, he vanished, not using instant transmission, but simply ceasing to be in one location and appearing in another, leaving no trace of movement between points. Show off, Vegeta muttered, though a reluctant hint of admiration colored his tone. Come on, Namekian. Let's see if these void creatures can handle Saiyan and Namekian teamwork. As they departed, Caulifla turned to Mai with a critical eye. Can you actually fight, or are you just intel support? The time-displaced warrior answered by drawing twin pistols that hummed with energy unlike anything Caulifla had seen before. These weapons fire concentrated temporal particles. They don't destroy, they freeze objects in time. Against entities that exist outside normal temporal flow, they might be particularly effective. Huh, Caulifla acknowledged, impressed despite herself. Neat trick. Race you to the western quadrant. Without waiting for an answer, she blasted off, golden Super Saiyan aura flaring around her. Mai shook her head with the weary tolerance of someone long accustomed to Saiyan impulsiveness, then followed at her own pace, moving with the practiced efficiency of a veteran battlefield operative. As the defensive teams deployed, Bulma and Vados remained in the ritual chamber, monitoring the unfolding crisis from different perspectives, one through technology, the other through cosmic awareness. Their holding back, Bulma observed after several minutes of watching the conflict through surveillance feeds and energy readings. The void entities, are numerous enough to overwhelm the city, but they're spreading out, targeting specific locations instead. Indeed, Vados agreed, her expression contemplative. This isn't an invasion, it's a probing action. They're testing defenses, gathering information. For what purpose? The angel's ancient eyes narrowed slightly. To locate the weakest point in dimensional barriers for their master's arrival. Their master. Bulma's sharp mind immediately grasped the implications. There's something worse coming through. Much worse, Vados confirmed solemnly. These entities are merely fragments. Echoes of consciousness from beings erased from existence. But their master is something else entirely. A collective consciousness formed from the remnants of entire universes that were erased or never permitted to exist. And it wants revenge, Bulma concluded grimly. Against existence itself. Precisely. Vados tapped her staff lightly against the floor, creating ripples in the chamber's energy field. The void entities believe that by unmaking enough of our reality, they can rebuild their own. A fundamentally flawed understanding of multiversal mechanics, but hatred rarely produces rational thought. Bulma's attention was drawn back to the monitors as explosions bloomed across West City's skyline. It looks like our friends are giving them a proper welcome, at least. Caulifla had never experienced anything quite like this battle. The void entities didn't fight like conventional opponents. They seemed to slip between moments, existing in the spaces between heartbeats. Her attuned energy made contact possible, but landing effective blows required rethinking her entire approach to combat. They don't dodge, she shouted to Mai, who was systematically freezing entities with precision shots from her temporal weapons. They just aren't there when the attack arrives. They exist partially outside our temporal flow. Mai called back, rolling under a void tendril that erased part of a building facade as it passed. Don't aim where they're, aim where they'll be. That doesn't make any sense. Caulifla protested, frustration building as another perfectly executed kick passé. D harmlessly threw a void entity that seemed to phase out of synchronization with reality at the moment of impact. Think of time as another dimension, Mai instructed, taking careful aim at a cluster of entities converging on a power substation. They move through it differently than we do. You need to attack the whole trajectory, not just the point. Something clicked in Caulifla's tactical mind. Rather than focusing her energy into concentrated points as usual, she expanded it, creating a field effect that filled a volume of space-time rather than striking a single location. Her next CK, a sweeping energy wave, caught 3 void entities simultaneously, the attuned key disrupting their negative space forms. They didn't disintegrate as conventional enemies would, instead, they seemed to crystallize. Becoming brittle structures of frozen potential that shattered when Caulifla followed with physical strikes. Now you're getting it, Mai approved, her calm efficiency a stark contrast to Caulifla's explosive fighting style. They're vulnerable once their temporal phasing is disrupted. Caulifla grinned fiercely, adapting her technique with the rapid evolution characteristic of Saiyan battle genius. I like these odds better. Across the city, Vegeta and Piccolo faced similar challenges with their own tactical solutions. The Saiyan Prince had realized that his final flash technique, modified to create a sustained beam rather than an instant impact, could pin void entities in place long enough for Piccolo's special beam cannon to penetrate their core non-existence. On your left, Piccolo warned, extending his arm to impossible length to grab a civilian moments before a void entity could reach them. He deposited the stunned human behind their defensive line while Vegeta covered the retreat. These creatures are becoming more coordinated, Vegeta observed grimly, noticing patterns emerging in the seemingly random attacks. They're learning. They're also converging, Piccolo noted, his keen senses detecting movement patterns across the city. Not just random targets anymore, they're being drawn to something. In the city center, Goku had made the same observation. His harmony state granted perception beyond conventional senses, allowing him to see the invisible currents guiding the void entity's movements. They spiraled inward toward a central point, Capsule Corporation itself. Bulma. He communicated through the links she had established. They're targeting the ritual chamber. The dimensional resonance we created is acting like a beacon. Confirmed. Bulma's voice replied in his mind. Energy readings show 97% of the entity's changing vector toward our location. Defensive measures activating, but I'm not confident in their effectiveness against these things. I'm on my way back, Goku decided, dispatching 3 more void entities with graceful movements that seemed to bend space around his attacks. Tell the others to converge on your position. Already done, Bulma confirmed. But Goku, there's something else. Long-range sensors are detecting a massive dimensional distortion forming in the upper atmosphere. Whatever's coming through, it's orders of magnitude larger than these entities. Goku's perception expanded outward, past the city limits, into the stratosphere. What he saw sent a chill through him despite his transformed state. A vast tear was forming, not the surgical precision of the first void creature's entry, but a violent, jagged rending of reality itself. Beyond it, in the unfathomable darkness of the void between, something waited. Something vast and ancient and filled with cold malice. It's their master, he realized aloud. The void entities are creating a pattern with their movements, a dimensi. Onal locked to stabilize the tear for something much larger to enter our reality. Time estimate? Bulma asked, her voice steady despite the implication. Minutes at most, Goku replied. We need a new plan. As he arrived back at Capsule Corporation, the others converged from their respective sectors, battle-worn but undefeated. Void entities swarmed the area, creating a perimeter of distortion arrow. The compound as they moved in complex, synchronized patterns. It's a ritual of their own, Mai recognized, studying their movements with grim understanding. They're creating a dimensional anchor point. Can we disrupt it? Piccolo asked, already gathering energy for a massive attack. Not conventionally, Vados answered, emerging from the building with Bulma. The angel's usual composed deem. Anor showed subtle signs of concern, a tightening around the eyes, a certain tension in her posture. The pattern exists across multiple dimensional frequencies. Attacking the entities we can see would be like removing random threads from a tapestry. The overall design remains. Then what do we do? Caulifla demanded impatiently. Stand here and watch while their big bad boss rips its way into our reality. We counter pattern, Goku stated with sudden clarity. His transformed consciousness had been analyzing the void entities' movements, recognizing the mathematical precision behind their seemingly chaotic actions. They're creating a dimensional lock. We create a dimensional key. A fascinating proposal, Vados commented, genuine interest animating her features. Using the ritual resonance, we've already established to generate a counter-frequency that neutralizes their dimensional manipulation. Exactly, Goku confirmed, but we'll need to modify the formation. Instead of me at the center with 4 anchors, we need 5 points of equal resonance. A pentagram formation, Mai understood immediately. Balanced elemental resonance, but who takes the 5th position? We only established 4 emotional anchors. I will, came a new voice from above. They looked up to see a figure descending from the sky, similar to the void entities in being composed of negative space, but somehow different. Where they seemed to negate reality around them, this being appeared to enhance it, creating a pocket of hyperdefinition where colors were more vivid, details more precise, existence itself more concrete. As the figure landed, features became distinguishable, feminine in aspect, with flowing hair that seemed composed of concentrated starlight and eyes that contained not galaxies like Goku's, but complete dimensional landscapes. My name is Naira, the entity introduced herself, her voice materializing directly in their minds rather than disturbing the air. I come from the void between, but I am not aligned with those who seek revenge against existence. Why should we trust you? Vegeta demanded immediately, battle-ready despite his fatigue. Because I have what you seek, Naira replied simply. She extended her hand, opening fingers that seemed composed of crystallized potential. In her palm rested 3 small lights, pulsing, living motes of consciousness that Goku recognized instantly. Chi-Chi, he whispered. Gohan, Goten, their essences, not their complete selves, Naira cautioned. Merely fragments of their consciousness that I managed to preserve before full absorption. But enough to serve as homing beacons for their displaced forms. This could be a trap, my warned, her temporal weapons trained steadily on the newcomer. The void entities are masterful manipulators. It is no trap. Vados intervened, studying Naira with ancient eyes that perceived far more than the others could. This being is indeed from the void, but she is different. An observer, not a participant in their vendetta. Why help us? Bulma asked directly. Naira's expression shifted in ways that suggested complex emotions beyond mortal understanding. Because existence deserves continuation, despite its flaws. Because consciousness, once extinguished, cannot be truly replaced, only mimicked. Her gaze fixed on Goku. And because your transformation has created possibilities that have never existed before. You bridge realities in ways previously thought impossible. The sky above darkened perceptibly as the dimensional tier expanded, now visible even to conventional perception as a jagged black wound in reality. Lightning-like discharges of anti-energy crackled around its edges. We're out of time for debate, Goku decided, his transformed state allowing him to perceive the imminent catastrophe with perfect clarity. If Naira can help complete our counter pattern, we use her. He turned to the void entity. What do you need from us? The fifth point in your resonance formation, she replied. The final emotional anchor, wisdom. Not just knowledge, but the understanding that comes from witnessing countless possibilities unfold. Can you provide that? Mai asked skeptically. I have existed in the spaces between realities since before your universe was born, Naira answered simply. I have observed every potential outcome of every decision ever made. If wisdom can be defined as the accumulation of perspective across infinite possibilities, then yes, I can provide that resonance. Without further discussion, they arranged themselves in a perfect pentagram foe. Armation around the Capsule Corporation compound. Goku at the northernmost point, Caulifla east, Bulma south, Piccolo west, and Naira at the critical fifth position to the northwest. Vados stood at the exact center, her staff planted firmly as the focal point for their combined resonance. The dimensional lock is nearly complete, the angel warned, her voice tight with unusual urgency. We must establish our counter pattern immediately. How exactly do we do that? Caulifla called, the practical Saiyan requiring specific instructions despite the apocalyptic circumstances. Channel your emotional resonance outward, Vados instructed. Not as you did in the ritual chamber, focused inward towards Son Goku, but externally, creating a field effect. I will harmonize the 5 resonances into a coherent counter pattern. In simpler terms, Bulma translated for everyone's benefit, focus on your core emotional strength and push it outward like an aura, but shaped like a triangle pointing toward Vados. Understanding dawned across various expressions. Each participant closed their eyes, concentrating on their respective emotional resonances. Determination from Caulifla, hope from Bulma, serenity from Piccolo, love from Goku, and wisdom from Naira. As they focused, visible energy fields manifested around each of them, distinct in color and quality but similarly triangular in shape, all pointing inward toward Vados at the center. Golden determination, blue-white hope, verdant serenity, pure white love, and prismatic wisdom, 5 frequencies of emotional energy converging on a single point. Vados raised her staff, its crystal sphere pulsing with intensifying light as it synchronized the disparate energies. The counter pattern is forming, she announced, her voice strained with effort unusual for an angel. But the dimensional lock is too far advanced. We need more power. Above, the tear in reality widened further, now nearly a kilometer across. Through it, something vast began to emerge, a presence so fundamentally antithetical to existence that reality itself recoiled from its touch. Where it made contact with the atmosphere, air simply ceased to exist, creating expanding zones of perfect vacuum. It's breaking through, Mai shouted, her instruments giving increasingly alarming readings. The dimensional barrier can't hold. In that moment of crisis, Goku made a decision. Within his harmony state, he had been carefully maintaining balance between the emotional resonances, particularly keeping his rage in check, contained by the anchors established during the ritual. Now, he deliberately loosened that control, allowing the rage that had triggered his transformation to flow more freely. What are you doing? Piccolo demanded, sensing the shift in Goku's energy pattern. What I have to, Goku replied, his voice deepening as the cosmic harmonics intensified. The harmony state is stable but limited. To generate enough power, I need to embrace the rage too, but controlled, directed, purposeful. That's dangerously close to what destroyed Vegeta in my timeline, Mai warned, her face pale with recognition. I know, Goku acknowledged. But I have something he didn't. All of you, anchoring me. Keeping me balanced even as I channel the full spectrum of emotional resonance. His aura expanded dramatically, the pure white of love now shot through with crimson threads of focused rage. The combination created a swirling pattern of incredible complexity and power, amplifying his contribution to the counter-pattern exponentially. Vados gasped as the surge of energy flowed through her staff, momentarily overwhelming even her celestial control. Careful, Son Goku, you're channeling primordial forces beyond mortal comprehension. Trust me, he replied simply, eyes fixed on the widening tear and the nameless horror beginning to emerge from it. I can handle it. The counter-pattern intensified, lines of force connecting the 5 points of the pentagram and Kree. Ting, a three-dimensional energy construct that expanded upward toward the dimensional tier. Where it met the void entity's dimensional lock, conflict erupted, reality itself buckling under the strain of opposing cosmic forces. The void entities redoubled their efforts, their synchronized movements becoming frenzied as they sensed resistance. More tiers began appearing throughout the city, smaller but equally dangerous, as they attempted to circumvent the counter-pattern. It's not enough, Bulma called out, her scientific mind processing the energy readings even as she maintained her contribution to the pattern. The counter-frequency is matched, but we lack the amplitude to overcome their dimensional lock. Then we need to change tactics, Goku decided, his transformed mind calculating possibilities at superhuman speed. Instead of opposing their pattern directly, we incorporate it, transmute it rather than negate it. Brilliant, Naira commented, genuine admiration in her mental voice. Using their own dimensional manipulation against them. Vados, Goku called to the angel at the center. Can you reconfigure the harmonization to absorb rather than counter? The angel's eyes widen, edged slightly at the audacity of the proposal. Theoretically, yes, but the risk is enormous. If we absorb their pattern and cannot transmute it completely, the resulting dimensional cascade could collapse. PSE reality for light years in every direction. Do we have a choice? Vegeta demanded from his position guarding Bulma's point in the formation. No, Vados admitted, we do not. With a fluid motion, she rotated her staff in a complex pattern, inverting the crystal at its tip. Prepare yourselves. This will be unpleasant. The energy construct connecting their pentagrams suddenly inverted, too. RNING from a protective barrier into something more like a vacuum, drawing in rather than pushing out. The effect on the void entities was immediate, their carefully choreographed movements disrupted as they found themselves pulled toward the pentagram's center. But the effect on the participants was equally dramatic. As the void entity's dimensional lock energy flowed into Vados's staff, it had to pass through each of them first, subjecting them to direct contact with the anti-reality of the void between. Caulifla screamed as void energy coursed through her determination resonance, every muscle in her body contracting simultaneously as she fought to maintain her position. Piccolo dropped to one knee, green skin paling to ash as serenity was challenged by fundamental negation. Bulma's scientific mind provided some insulation as she conceptualized the energy as merely another form of data, but sweat poured down her face from the effort of maintaining coherent thought. Naira alone seemed unaffected, her natural affinity for void energies allowing her to channel them effortlessly. Hold fast, she encouraged the others. The transmutation is beginning. At the center, Vados performed hat could only be described as dimensional alchemy, using her staff to refine the incoming void energy, stripping away its destructive aspects and retaining only the pure dimensional manipulation components. The crystal at the staff's tip changed colors rapidly as it processed the energy, cycling through hues no mortal eye had witnessed before. It's working, Mai called out from her monitoring position, checking readings on her wrist device. The dimensional lock is destabilizing. Above, the massive tear began to fluctuate, its edges no longer expanding but pulsing erratically as its supporting pattern failed. The vast presence attempting to emerge seemed to hesitate, sensing the changing circumstances. Then, with a sound like reality itself taking a breath, the tear began to contract. Void entities scattered in disarray as their coordinated pattern collapsed, their master's passage thwarted, at least temporarily. Push harder, Goku urged, channeling even more of his transformation's power into the pentagram. We can close it completely. The 5 participants redoubled their efforts, their combined resonance creating a harmony so perfect it seemed to sing across dimensional frequencies. Vados, at the center, completed her transmutation of the void energy, converting it from a force of destruction to one of restoration. With a final, thunderous implosion that momentarily silenced all sound for kilometers around. The tear closed, reality reasserting itself with such force that a visible shockwave spread outward, flattening debris and scattering the remaining void entities to the winds. Silence fell across the battlefield as the combatants processed what had just occurred. The immediate threat had been averted, but at significant cost. Each participant in the pentagram formation was thoroughly depleted, barely able to stand. Even Vados looked uncharacteristically taxed, her perfect posture slightly diminished. We did it, Bulma breathed, disbelief and triumph mingling in her voice. We actually closed a tear in reality itself. Temporarily, Naira cautioned, her form flickering slightly as if maintaining coherence in their reality required increasing effort. The void between has infinite patience. Its master will try again. Goku, still maintaining his harmony state though at reduced intensity, approached the void entity who had helped them. You said you preserved fragments of my family's consciousness. Can you help us find them? Naira inclined her head in acknowledgement. I can do better than that. The energy we just processed, the void entity's dimensional lock, contained the coordinates of their displacement. With that information and the consciousness fragments I preserved, I can guide you directly to where they are being held. Hope flared visibly in Goku's aura, the white light of his love resonance intensifying. When do we leave? Wait, Mai interjected, approaching with caution born of bitter experience. This still feels too convenient. Why would you help us so readily? Quote, Naira regarded the time-displaced warrior with something like respect. Healthy skepticism. I would expect nothing less from one who has witnessed timeline collapse. She turned back to Goku, her expression becoming solemn. I help you because your transformation represents something unprecedented, a bridge between existence and non-existence that might finally end the eternal conflict between the void and reality. Meaning what, exactly? Vegeta demanded, ever suspicious. Meaning that Son Goku's supreme rage form, and now his harmony state, may offer a solution beyond mere victory or defeat. Naira explained, a true reconciliation between opposing cosmic forces. The void entities seek to unmake reality because they believe it's the only way to restore what was lost to them. But his transformation suggests another possibility, coexistence rather than mutual annihilation. That's. Bulma paused, her scientific mind racing through implications. That's actually a fascinating hypothesis from a quantum physics perspective. If consciousness can exist across dimensional barriers, then perhaps displaced realities aren't truly gone, just inaccessible through conventional means. Precisely, Naira confirmed, and Son Goku's transformation provides the unconventional means required. So helping us rescue my family helps you how, exactly? Goku asked directly, his transformed state cutting through obfuscation with uncanny precision. It demonstrates the possibility of retrieval without destruction, Naira replied simply. If beings displaced to the void can be restored to reality without reality itself being unmade, then perhaps the same might eventually be possible for entire universes lost to cosmic oversight or divine decree. Vados stirred at this, her ancient eyes narrowing slightly. You speak of matters beyond mortal concern, void dweller. The erasure of universes is the purview of Zeno alone. And yet here stands one who might challenge even that truth. Naira responded, gesturing to Goku's transformed state. Not through rebellion or defiance, but through transcendence. Through becoming a bridge rather than a barrier. Philosophical implications hung heavy in the air, but Goku's focus remained practical. Theoretical cosmic reconciliation can wait. Right now, I need to find my family. Naira nodded, accepting his priorities. Then we should prepare immediately. The journey to the void between will require precise calibration of your dimensional resonance. The fragments I preserved will guide us to their complete forms. But the path itself is treacherous beyond mortal comprehension. Who goes and who stays? Caulifla asked, having recovered enough of her strength to join the conversation. We can't all take a field trip to non-existence, can we? Quote, "No," Vados confirmed. "A small team only. Too many consciousness signatures would destabilize any passage we create. I'm going," Goku stated with absolute certainty. "My transformation makes me the ideal bridge between realities. I will guide you," Naira offered. "Without a native of the void, you would be lost in moments." "I'm coming too," Caulifla declared stubbornly. "My determination resonance with Goku is strongest, and let's face it, retrieving erased people from a place that isn't supposed to exist will take some serious determination." 3 is optimal, Naira advised. "More would increase detection risk from hostile void entities." Mai stepped forward, her expression resolute. "I should be the third. My experience with timeline manipulation and dimensional anomalies could prove invaluable if complications arise. Which they will," Naira acknowledged grimly. "The void between does not surrender what it has claimed without resistance." "How exactly do we create this passage?" Bulma asked, practical concerns foremost in her scientific mind. "The dimensional tear we just closed nearly destroyed reality as we know it." "Not a tear," Vados corrected. "A calibrated aperture. Using the transmuted void energy we just processed, I can create a controlled opening, small, precise, and temporary. It will allow passage only for those specifically attuned to its frequency." "And how do they get back once they've found Goku's family?" Piccolo asked, voicing the critical question everyone had overlooked in their planning. Silence fell as the implications sank in. Creating a passage from reality to the void between was one challenge. Creating a return path from a place that fundamentally negated existence was quite another. "I cannot create a return aperture from this side," Vados finally admitted. "The dimensional physics simply don't allow for it. So it's a one-way trip." Vegeta demanded incredulously. "That's suicide." "Not necessarily," Naira interjected. "There exist natural boundary fluctuations within the void, places where the membrane between existence and non-existence grows thin cyclically. With proper timing and locational accuracy, such a fluctuation could be exploited for return passage." "Could be," Vegeta repeated skeptically. "That's not exactly reassuring." "There is another option," Goku said quietly, his transformed perception having calculated possibilities the others couldn't yet see. "The consciousness fragments Naira preserved, they maintain quantum entanglement with their complete forms, correct?" Naira nodded, impressed by his intuitive understanding. "Yes, consciousness cannot be truly divided, only distributed across dimensional frequencies. Then they also maintain entanglement with this reality," Goku continued, his reasoning advancing with the clarity granted by his harmony state. "Which means once we locate their complete forms, I could potentially use that entanglement as a homing beacon for a modified instant transmission technique. Across dimensional barriers." Bulma questioned dubiously. "Your instant transmission requires detecting key signatures. Would that even work in a place defined by the absence of conventional energy?" "Not conventional instant transmission," Goku acknowledged. "But in this form, I'm perceiving reality differently, seeing the connections between things rather than just the things themselves. The emotional bonds between my family and this world remain intact despite their physical displacement. Those bonds could serve as guide wires back to this reality." "A fascinating theory," Vados commented, genuine interest animating her typically composed features. "Untested, but theoretically sound based on what we've observed of your transformed capabilities." "So the plan is this," Goku summarized decisively. "Vados creates a calibrated aperture to the void between using the transmuted energy from the void entity's dimensional lock. Naira, Caulifla, and I pass through, using the consciousness fragments to locate my family's displaced forms. Once found, I attempt to use emotional entanglement to perform trans-dimensional instant transmission, bringing everyone back to this reality. And if that fails," Piccolo asked bluntly, "then we seek one of the natural boundary fluctuations Naira mentioned," Goku replied without hesitation. "Either way, we're coming back." "How long will this take from our perspective?" Bulma asked. "Time might flow differently in the void, but we need to know how long to maintain the anchor point here before assuming the worst." "Difficult to calculate precisely," Vados admitted. "But based on previous interdimensional phenomena I've observed, I would estimate a ratio of approximately 1 hour in our reality to what might subjectively feel like days in the void between." "Give us 24 hours, Goku decided. If we haven't returned by then, assume something went wrong and prepare accordingly. The grim implication hung in the air. Prepare for another potential incursion from the void entities, possibly worse than the one they had just repelled. 24 hours, Vegeta confirmed. Then we implement contingency measures. His expression left little doubt as to the drastic nature of such measures. As the group dispersed to make final preparations, Caulifla approached Goku with uncharacteristic solemnity. Hey, this plan is insane, you know that, right? We're literally planning to jump into non-existence on the word of a void entity we just met, with only a theory about how to get back. I know, Goku acknowledged, his transformed features softening slightly. You don't have to come. This isn't your family, your responsibility. Caulifla snorted derisively, as if I'd let you have all the glory of being the first Saiyan to punch non-existence in the face. Besides, her expression grew more serious. Your family was taken because of what you are, what we both are. Saiyans, who keep breaking through limits that aren't supposed to be broken. That makes it personal. Gratitude flowed through Goku's aura, visible as ripples of warmth in his cosmic energy field. Thank you, Caulifla. Your determination might make all the difference. Just don't get all sentimental on me, she warned, uncomfortable with the emotional sincerity. Save that for when we find your family. With that, she turned away, moving to prepare her equipment for the unprecedented journey. Nearby, Mai and Bulma conferred over technical specifications, the scientist providing the Time Warrior with modified sensors that might function in the void's unique conditions. These are calibrated to detect consciousness wavelengths rather than conventional energy signatures, Bulma explained, handing sleek devices barely larger than coins. They'll draw power from your own bioelectric field since we can't assume any energy source will function normally in the void. Clever, Mai acknowledged, securing the sensors to her tactical gear. Any other last-minute innovations I should know about? Bulma held up a small metallic sphere. Emergency temporal anchor. If everything goes wrong, and catastrophically wrong, crushing this will create a temporal stasis field around whoever is holding it. It won't bring you back, but it would preserve you in a kind of suspended animation until we can find another solution. A last resort, then, Mai said grimly, accepting the device and tucking it securely into a protected pocket. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Indeed. Bulma hesitated, then added more quietly. Take care of them in there. Goku acts invincible, but even in this new form, he has vulnerabilities. And Caulifla's determination sometimes outstrips her common sense. I'll watch their backs, Mai promised. Timeline preservation is my specialty, after all. As final preparations concluded, Vados directed everyone to the epicenter of their previous dimensional conflict. A now vacant plaza where the energy residue of both void incursion and counter pattern remained strongest. There, using her staff, she began the delicate process of creating a calibrated aperture to the void between. The air shimmered as her staff traced complex patterns, each movement leaving luminous trails that hung suspended in perfect geometric configurations. Unlike the jagged, destructive tear created by the void entities, this opening formed with surgical precision, a perfectly circular window through which absolute darkness could be glimpsed. The aperture is stable, Vados announced, after several minutes of intense concentration. But it will remain so for only moments. You must pass through immediately and in physical contact with one another. Goku nodded, then turned to Naira. The consciousness fragments. The void entity extended her hand once more, revealing the three motes of light representing Chi-Chi, Gohan, and Goten. They should be carried by you, as the strongest. Emotional connection will facilitate tracking. Goku gently accepted the fragments, which gravitated naturally toward his transformed aura, orbiting him like tiny satellites, drawn to his essence as surely as he was drawn to theirs. Ready? He asked his companions. Caulifla nodded, rolling her shoulders as if preparing for a conventional battle. As I'll ever be. Affirmed, Mai replied tersely, checking her equipment one final time. Remember, Vados cautioned, what you perceive in the void between will not conform to conventional reality. Trust nothing your senses tell you except through the filter of your purpose. Maintain focus on your objective at all costs. And do not linger, Naira added ominously. The void changes those who dwell within it too long. Even I am not immune to its influence. With final nods to those remaining behind, the rescue team assembled at the aperture's threshold. Goku took the lead, his harmony state creating a protective aura that extended to include Caulifla and Mai as they maintained physical contact with him. Naira moved to his side, her form seeming more substantial the closer she came to the dimensional opening. "Find them and return," Bulma said simply. "We'll be waiting." 24 hours, Vegeta reminded grimly. "We'll be back long before that," Goku replied with characteristic confidence, though tempered now with the wisdom of his transformed perception. With that, they stepped forward into absolute nothingness, the aperture ceiling seamlessly behind them, as if it, and they, had never existed at all. Those left behind stood in silence for several moments, the enormity of what had just transpired settling over them like a physical weight. "Now we wait," Piccolo stated unnecessarily, his expression betraying unusual concern despite his stoic nature. "Now we prepare," Vegeta corrected grimly. "Because whatever happens in the next 24 hours, I suspect our battle with the void entities has only just begun." Bulma looked up at the sky, clear now, with no sign of the catastrophic dimensional tear that had nearly spelled doom for their reality. But her scientific intuition told her that the appearance of normalcy was deceptive. Something fundamental had changed in the fabric of existence itself. "Be careful, Goku," she whispered, though he was beyond any possibility of hearing. "And come home safe." In the endless nothing between realities, the search for Chi-Chi, Gohan, and Goten, and perhaps for the true meaning of Goku's unprecedented transformation, had begun. The fate of not just a family, but potentially all of existence, hung in the balance of what they would discover in the void between. Chapter 3. Balance in Chaos. Nothingness had texture. This was Goku's first coherent thought as his consciousness adjusted to the impossible environment of the void between. What his senses reported couldn't be processed by a mind evolved to understand three-dimensional space and linear time. The void wasn't dark. Darkness implied the absence of light. This was the absence of absence itself, a paradox that made his transformed perception strain to create comprehensible patterns. Don't try to understand it directly. Naira's thoughts materialized in his mind. Physical sound couldn't exist here. Let your consciousness interpret without imposing structure. Goku focused on the orbiting fragments of his family-wise consciousness, the only familiar reference points in this non-place. Gradually, his perception adapted. The void resolved into something his mind could process, not accurately, but functionally. Lick. A two-dimensional representation of a three-dimensional object, it was an approximation that allowed navigation without true comprehension. "Is everyone okay?" He projected the thought outward, feeling for the mental signatures of Caulifla and Mai. Caulifla's consciousness responded with characteristic resilience. "Define." "Okay. I exist, I think. But this place is wrong." Mai's response came more slowly, her disciplined mind methodically cataloging the impossible. Functioning. Perceptual distortion significant but manageable. Sensors inactive. No readings. Goku turned his attention to their surroundings, allowing his transformed senses to expand outward. What had initially seemed like uniform nothingness now revealed subtle variations, currents of anti-energy flowing in patterns that hinted at structure beyond comprehension. In the distance, though distance itself was a questionable concept here, he sensed concentrations of activity. Consciousness, or something analogous to it. The void entities congregate there. Naira confirmed, following his attention. "We must avoid detection. Your transformation makes you visible to them, a beacon of existence in their non-world." "How do we find my family?" Goku asked, focusing on the orbiting motes of consciousness. They pulsed more rapidly now, resonating with something distant. "Follow the connection," Naira instructed. "The fragments seek reunification with their wholes. But be cautious, other consciousnesses have been displaced here. Not all were preserved as thoughtfully as your family. What remains of them has changed." The why moved through the void, not walking or flying, but transferring their point of perception through acts of concentrated will. Goku led, his harmony state creating a bubble of relative stability around them. Caulifla followed closely, her determination manifesting as a golden thread anchoring her to Goku's reality field. Mai came next, her timeline-hopping experience providing unexpected resilience against the void's perception warping effects. Naira moved differently, flowing through her native environment with effortless grace. The journey defied temporal measurement. It might have been minutes or years. The concept of duration held no meaning here. They encountered strange formations, crystallized thought structures and memory fragments from countless displaced consciousnesses. Some reached toward them with desperate hunger. Others recoiled from Goku's intense existence energy. There, Naira indicated eventually, directing their attention to what appeared as a distant structure, though appearance itself was merely their minds' interpretation of incomprehensible void phenomena. It resembled a vast inverted pyramid, composed not of matter but of layered consciousness energy suspended in non-space. At its apex, actually its deepest point, 3 distinct energy patterns pulsed with familiar signatures. That's them, Goku confirmed, the orbiting fragments responding with increased luminosity as they drew nearer to their sources. But what is this structure? A consciousness trap, Naira explained. Designed to hold displaced minds for study and eventual repurposing. Repurposing. Caulifla's thought carried unmistakable revulsion. What does that mean? The void entities were once conscious beings in realities that ceased to exist, Naira replied. When their universes were erased, fragments of their consciousness survived in the void between, angry, vengeful fragments that coalesced into new forms. They believe they can reconstruct their lost realities by harvesting and repurposing consciousness energy from existing universes. And my family was taken for this harvesting. Goku's thought voice carried dangerous undertones, crimson threads of rage pulsing through his harmony aura. Yes, Naira confirmed. Their connection to you makes their consciousness energy particularly potent. The void entities theorized that beings closely linked to one who achieved super rage would contain uniquely powerful spiritual essence. We need to get closer, Goku decided, focusing on the pyramid structure. Can we approach undetected? Naira's form shifted, adapting to better shield their presence. Temporarily. But extraction will inevitably alert the structure's guardians. Then we plan our escape before attempting rescue, Mai interjected practically. What defenses should we expect? Not defenses as you understand them, Naira cautioned. The structure is maintained by the collective will of void entities. Disrupting it means opposing that will directly, TLE of consciousness against consciousness. Then it's a good thing we brought the guy who just unlocked a consciousness-based transformation, Caulifla noted with grim humor. How do we do this, Goku? Goku studied the structure with his transformed perception, seeing beyond its apparent form to the energy patterns maintaining it. The fragments are drawn to their sources, he observed as the biting motes strained toward the pyramid. If I release them, they'll reunite naturally. That moment of reunification might temporarily disrupt the consciousness trap, creating an opportunity for extraction, Mai concluded. But we'd need to act instantly, before the void entities can respond. And we'd need to reach all 3 simultaneously, Goku added, seeing the complexity of the task. You're held at different levels within the structure. We split up, Caulifla suggested immediately. Each takes one target. Too dangerous, Naira countered. Without Goku's harmony state protecting you, the void would begin immediate consciousness dissolution. You wouldn't survive long enough to reach your targets. Goku considered the problem, drawing on both his tactical experience and his transformation's enhanced perception. What if I extend my field effect? Create pathways of stable reality extending from my position to each of theirs. Naira studied him with newfound respect. Theoretically possible, though immensely taxing. Your transformation would need to maintain multiple existence fields simultaneously against the fundamental nature of the void. I can handle it, Goku stated with characteristic confidence. Though tempered now with the wisdom of his harmony state. Caulifla, Mai, you'll follow these pathways to Gohan and Goten. I'll retrieve Chi-Chi myself. Once the USNESS fragments reunite with their sources, we'll have moments at most to reach them and return to my central position for trans-dimensional instant transmission. And if something goes wrong? Mai asked pragmatically. Then we fight our way out, Caulifla declared, punching one fist into her palm, a gesture that created odd ripples in the non-space around them. Against entities that exist beyond conventional reality. With what weapons? Mai questioned skeptically. With this, Goku replied, his harmony state intensifying as he focused his will. My transformation allows me to affect void entities directly, to impose existence upon non-existence. If necessary, I'll create weapons of pure consciousness energy that you can wield. That's actually pretty badass, Caulifla admitted, impressed despite her usual competitive attitude toward Goku. We should move now, Naira urged. Patrol patterns suggest a temporary reduction in Guardian presence around the structure. They approached cautiously, Goku's perception expanding outward to track void entity movements while simultaneously preparing to create the existence fields they would need. As they drew nearer, the true scale of the consciousness trap became apparent, a vast construct containing thousands of imprisoned consciousness fragments, with Goku's family merely the newest and most prominent acquisitions. So many, Mai whispered, horror evident in her thought voice. Are these all people taken from various realities? Not all were once people, Naira replied cryptically. The multiverse contains consciousness in myriad forms. The void entities are indiscriminate in their harvesting. They paused at the structure's perimeter, hovering in the non-space equivalent of an entry point. Goku focused on the 3 consciousness fragments, which now strained violently toward their sources, creating visible distortions in the void's not quite matter. I can sense them more clearly now, he said, hope and determination strengthening his harmony state. They're intact, confused, frightened, but whole. The extraction must be precisely synchronized, Naira cautioned. Premature consciousness reunification will alert the Guardians immediately. Then we time it exactly, Goku decided. He closed his eyes, or the void-adapted equivalent of the gesture, and concentrated. His transformed aura expanded outward, forming distinct pathways of stable reality extending toward the positions where he sensed Chi-Chi, Gohan, and Goten. Each pathway shimmered with the cosmic colors of his harmony state, creating tunnels of existence through the non-reality of the void. Follow these exactly, he instructed Caulifla and Mai. Don't deviate, no matter what you perceive. The void will attempt to distract you with false patterns. Which target for which of us? Mai asked, readying herself. Goku considered briefly. Caulifla, take the path to Gohan. Your combat experience might be needed if his consciousness resists extraction. Mai, follow the path to Goten. Your timeline experience makes you better suited to his displacement pattern. Both women nodded their understanding, positioning themselves at the entrances to their designated reality pathways. On my signal, I'll release the consciousness fragments, Goku continued. That's when we move, straight to our targets, no hesitation. The moment you make contact, focus your entire will on returning to this position. Don't attempt to navigate back, just project your absolute intention to reunite here. And then, Caulifla asked, then I attempt trans-dimensional. Instant transmission before the void entities can respond, Goku replied simply. Either we all return home together, or, he left the alternative unspoken. Failure wasn't an option he would acknowledge, not with his family's existence at stake. Ready yourselves, Naira warned, her form fluctuating more rapidly as she monitored void currents around them. Guardian patterns shifting, we have moments only. Goku steadied himself, gathering his will and focusing his transformed consciousness on the task ahead. The orbiting fragments responded to his intention, aligning themselves precisely with the 3 reality pathways. Now, he commanded, simultaneously releasing his hold on the fragments and propelling himself down the central pathway toward Chi-Chi. The fragments shot forward with impossible speed, streaking along the reality pathways like comets through the non-space of the void. Caulifla and Mai launched themselves in perfect synchronization, following their designated paths with unwavering focus. Goku's perception split, maintaining awareness of his own progress while simultaneously sustaining the reality pathways against the void's constant erosion. The effort strained even his transformed capabilities, forcing him to channel more of the emotional spectrum that powered his harmony state. Around them, the void began to respond. The non-space rippled with disturbances as guardian entities detected the intrusion. Patterns of anti-energy converged toward the consciousness trap, drawn by the unprecedented presence of pure existence energy penetrating their domain. Goku accelerated, pushing his consciousness forward with desperate intensity. Ahead, he perceived Chi-Chi's displaced form, not a physical body, but a complex pattern of consciousness energy suspended within the trap's structure. The fragment he had released was seconds from reunion with its source. Similar scenes played out along the other pathways. Caulifla rocketed toward Gohan's consciousness pattern, her determined will manifesting as golden energy that pushed back against the void's resistance. Mai advanced more methodically toward Goten, her timeline-hopping experience allowing her to navigate the reality pathway with precise efficiency. The fragments reached their targets simultaneously. Reality shuddered. The consciousness trap emitted a silent scream as the reunification of fragmented awareness created momentary systemic disruption. The pyramid structure flickered, its patterns destabilizing as the carefully maintained balance of consciousness energy fluctuated wildly. Goku reached Chi-Chi's suspended consciousness in that crucial moment of vulnerability. Without physical form in this place, he couldn't embrace her as he longed to. Instead, his transformed awareness enveloped her consciousness pattern, creating a protective field of pure existence energy around her disoriented awareness. Chi-Chi, he communicated directly from consciousness to consciousness. It's me. I've come to take you home. Her response came not in words but in pure emotional resonance, recognition, relief, love tinged with fear and confusion. Her consciousness pattern, briefly destabilized by the fragment's reunion, began to cohere around this emotional core, strengthening as it recognized the familiar patterns of her husband's awareness. Stay with me, Goku urged, beginning the difficult process of extraction. Chi-Chi's consciousness had been integrated into the trap's structure, removing it required careful separation without damaging her unique pattern. Focus on home, on Earth, on our life together. Along the other pathways, similar scenes unfolded. Caulifla reached Gohan's consciousness, her determined energy providing the stability his awareness needed to begin separation from the trap. Mai connected with Goten's younger, more adaptable consciousness, her experience with timeline transitions helping him navigate the disorienting process of extraction. But the void entities had noticed. Guardian consciousness patterns converged on the pyramid structure, their non-existence energy creating disruptions in Goku's reality pathways. The stable tunnels began to flicker and warp the fundamental opposition between existence and non-existence intensified. Were detected. Naira's warning echoed through their connected awareness. The Guardian's approach. Extraction must be completed immediately. Goku felt his control over the reality pathways weakening as void entities attacked the foreign existence energy, maintaining 3 separate tunnels while simultaneously extracting. Chi-Chi's consciousness taxed even his transformed capabilities to their limit. Caulifla, Mai, he projected urgently. Status. Almost there. Caulifla responded, her thought voice strained but determined. Gohan's consciousness is responding. Separation at approximately 60%. Goten is more integrated than expected, Mai reported with clinical precision despite the crisis. The young consciousness adapted more completely to void patterns, working to disentangle without damage. The Guardian void entities converged faster, their non-existence energy beginning to erode Goku's reality pathways at an accelerating rate. Sections flickered and vanished temporarily, forcing Caulifla and Mai to navigate increasingly treacherous routes back toward the extraction point. With supreme effort, Goku completed Chi-Chi's extraction, her consciousness now fully encompassed within his protective energy field. He began retracing his path, pulling her awareness with him as he moved toward the central point where their escape would originate. Hurry, he projected to the others. The pathways are collapsing. Caulifla responded with a surge of determined energy, accelerating her progress. With Gohan's partially extracted consciousness. Almost there. Don't you dare leave without us. Mai's progress remained methodical despite the crisis, her disciplined mind refusing to rush the delicate process of consciousness extraction. 85% separation achieved. Estimated completion in 15 perception seconds. The Guardian void entities reached the pyramid structure, their non-existence energy causing catastrophic destabilization throughout the consciousness trap. Other captured awareness patterns began breaking free in the chaos, creating a storm of disoriented consciousness fragments that further complicated the extraction team's retreat. Goku reached the central point first, Chi-Chi's consciousness safely contained within his energy field. He turned his perception outward, focusing on maintaining what remained of the reality pathways while simultaneously preparing for the unprecedented feat of trans-dimensional instant transmission. Caulifla, he called, say, NSING her approach through the collapsing pathway. My status. Coming through. Khalifa's response came with a final burst of golden energy as she emerged from her deteriorating pathway, Gohan's consciousness pattern wrapped protectively in her determination field. Got him. Mai appeared moments later, her methodical approach having allowed her to navigate the collapsing pathway with minimal disruption. Goten's consciousness, now fully separated from the trap, orbited her awareness in playful patterns despite the danger surrounding them. Extraction complete, she reported simply, joining the others at the central point. Now, Goku, Naira urged as Void Guardians closed in from all directions. The trans-dimensional jump. Goku gathered his transformed will, focusing simultaneously on the three rescued consciousness patterns and the distant resonance of their home reality. The emotional connections that bound them together, love, family, belonging, created quantum entanglement that transcended the barriers between existence and non-existence. In his harmony state, he could perceive these connections as luminous threads stretching across dimensional boundaries. Everyone, focus on home, he instructed. Picture Earth, Capsule Corporation, the exact moment and place we departed from. The stronger our collective intention, the easier the transition. As Void Guardians converged in overwhelming numbers, Goku executed the most difficult technique of his life, an instant transmission not through space, but through the very fabric of reality itself. His consciousness expanded to encompass not just their small group, but the conceptual possibility of their return, the quantum potential that existed despite the void's fundamental nature. For one eternal moment, nothing happened. The void entities closed in, non-existence energy preparing to erase the intruders who had violated their domain and stolen their carefully harvested consciousness patterns. Then reality itself bent. The quantum entanglement between the rescued consciousness patterns and their home dimension created a momentary bridge, not physical, not energetic, but a pure connection of possibility that Goku's transformed awareness could perceive and utilize. With one final push of concentrated will, he propelled their collective consciousness along this conceptual pathway, away from non-existence and toward the reality they called home. The transition defied description, a journey not through space but through states of being. From non-existence to potential existence to actualized reality, their consciousness patterns compressed and expanded simultaneously across dimensional boundaries never meant to be traversed. And then, with a thunderous implosion of displaced air, they materialized on the exact T-spot from which they had departed 23 hours and 17 minutes earlier. The return was chaos. Alarms blared throughout Capsule Corporation as monitoring systems detected the unprecedented energy surge of their arrival. Emergency containment fields activated automatically, surrounding the materialization point with layers of protective barriers designed to contain unknown threats. Inside these barriers, reality struggled to reassert itself around the travelers from the void between. Goku maintained his harmony state, creating stability for the disembodied consciousness patterns of his family as they sought to realign with physical existence. Khalifa and Mai collapsed to their knees, the transition having taxed their mortal awareness beyond reasonable limits. And Naira, most surprising Ly, had somehow maintained her cohesion through the trans-dimensional jump, though her form flickered more erratically than before, struggling to maintain definition in a reality that fundamentally rejected her void-based nature. Containment fields at maximum. Bulma's voice came through speakers surrounding them. Goku, is that you? What happened? Are you okay? It's us, Goku confirmed, his voice carrying the harmonics of his transformed state but strained now with the effort of maintaining stability for the three consciousness patterns orbiting him. We found them, but they need bodies, their physical forms were erased. Bulma's scientific mind processed this immediately. The regeneration tanks. We can use the genetic samples we have on file to reconstruct compatible physical vessels. Hurry, Goku urged, the consciousness patterns orbiting him beginning to destabilize as they struggled to exist in physical reality without bodily anchors. They can't maintain coherence here for long. The containment field nearest the building retracted, creating a pathway. This way, Bulma directed from a control room visible through reinforced windows. The medical wing is prepped and ready. Goku moved forward, still maintaining the protective field around the three consciousness patterns. Caulifla struggled to her feet, helping Mai rise as they followed. Naira remained where she had materialized, her form continuing to fluctuate between states of relative solidity and near transparency. I cannot accompany you further into your reality, she communicated, her thought voice fading. My nature is incompatible with prolonged existence here. Will you return to the void? Goku asked, pausing despite the urgency. Eventually, Naira replied, her form temporarily stabilizing through visible effort. But first, a warning. What you did has consequences. The void entities now know consciousness can be reclaimed from their domain. Their master will accelerate plans for full incursion. The next attack won't be a probing action, it will be annihilation. We'll be ready, Goku promised. And Naira, thank you. Without your help, I couldn't have saved my family. The void entity's expression shifted in what might have been the equivalent of a smile. Perhaps someday, Son Goku, when you have mastered your transformation more completely, you might help reclaim others lost to the void. Perhaps even those who were never people, but entire realities erased by divine decree. With that cryptic statement, her form dispersed into particles of anti-energy that briefly hung in the air before vanishing completely, returning to the non-space between realities from which she had come. Goku. Now, Bulma called urgently from the medical wing entrance. The consciousness patterns are destabilizing. Refocusing on his immediate priority, Goku rushed forward, the orbiting awareness of his family members growing increasingly erratic as they struggled to maintain coherence in physical reality. Inside the medical wing, 3 regeneration tanks stood ready, filled with nutrient-rich solution and surrounded by complex equipment Bulma had adapted from various alien technologies acquired over the years. Place them here, she instructed, indicating receptor dishes positioned above each tank. The consciousness patterns will be held in quantum suspension while the bodies regenerate. Goku carefully directed each consciousness pattern to its designated receptor, Chi-Chi to the central tank, Gohan and Goten to those flanking it. As each awareness touched the receptor, specialized equipment captured and stabilized its unique pattern, creating quantum matrices that preserved their essential nature during the regeneration process. How long will this take? Goku asked, his transformed perception allowing him to monitor the stabilization process with unusual clarity. Approximately 6 hours for complete physical regeneration, Bulma replied, her fingers flying over control panels as she fine-tuned the process. The consciousness integration will happen automatically as the brain structures form. The quantum entanglement should guide the patterns to their corresponding neural networks. Vegeta entered the medical wing, his expression revealing unusual concern beneath his typical scowl. The Namekian sensed your return. The temporal anomalies have stabilized further since you retrieved your family. But not disappeared entirely, Bulma added, glancing at monitoring screens. Whatever damage was done to reality's fabric during the void incursion hasn't fully healed. Caulifla and Mai followed them into the medical wing, both showing signs of the tremendous strain their journey had placed on them. Mai immediately connected her monitoring devices to Bulma's systems, downloading the data they had managed to collect from the void between. This information could be crucial, she explained, her professional demeanor maintained despite visible exhaustion. The consciousness trap contained thousands of awareness patterns, not just from our reality, but from multiple dimensions and timelines. A harvesting operation, Caulifla added, dropping into a chair with uncharacteristic weariness. They're collecting consciousness energy from across realities for some larger purpose. To rebuild their lost universes, Goku supplied, his harmony state perception providing insights beyond normal understanding. But the process is fundamentally flawed. You can't rebuild one reality by destroying another, it creates imbalance across the multiverse. Vegeta raised an eyebrow at this philosophical observation. So unlike Goku's usual straightforward thinking. Your transformation has changed more than your power level, Kakarot. It's changed how I perceive everything, Goku acknowledged, studying his transformed state with newfound appreciation. I'm seeing connections I never noticed before, between people, between dimensions, between emotional states and cosmic forces. Speaking of changes, Bulma interjected, your transformation appears to be stabilizing further. The readings I'm getting show your energy signature cohering into new patterns, more structured than before. But still unlike anything in our database. Goku nodded, feeling the subtle shift within himself. The emotional anchors you all provided are integrating more completely. The rage that triggered the transformation is still there, but balanced now, one element among many rather than the driving force. So this is permanent? Vegeta questioned, a complex mix of emotions crossing his features briefly: concern, respect, perhaps even a hint of envy. I don't know, Goku admitted. I can feel my base state beneath the transformation, but returning to it feels incomplete somehow. Going back to seeing in 2 dimensions after experiencing 3. Their conversation was interrupted as alarms sounded again. Not the facility's internal security system this time, but the early warning network Bulma had established to monitor dimensional stability across the planet. Another incursion? Caulifla asked, immediately alert despite her fatigue. Bulma rushed to a monitoring station, checking readings with growing concern. Not exactly. The dimensional barrier is fluctuating, but nothing's coming through yet. It's more like something's testing it, probing for weaknesses. Naira warned this would happen. Mai recalled grimly. The void entities know we can extract consciousness from their domain now. Their master will accelerate plans for full-scale invasion. Then we prepare, Vegeta declared firmly. Gather the Earth's defenders. Establish defensive perimeters at potential incursion points. Develop weapons effective against void entities. It won't be enough, Goku said quietly, his transformed perception calculating possibilities with unprecedented clarity. Conventional defenses won't stop what's coming. We need something more fundamental, a way to address the underlying conflict between existence and non-existence. The others turned to him, surprised by this abstract approach from the normally action-oriented Saiyan. What exactly are you suggesting, Kakarot? Vegeta demanded. A philosophical debate with entities trying to erase our reality. No, Goku replied, his expression thoughtful beneath the cosmic patterns of his transformation. I'm suggesting we find balance. The void entities believe they can restore what they lost by taking from us. But what if there's another way? What if consciousness can exist across dimensional boundaries without requiring physical reality? You're talking about concepts beyond cutting-edge theoretical physics, Bulma noted, intrigued despite the crisis. Consciousness transference across dimensional barriers without physical anchors. I've experienced it, Goku stated simply. In the void between, consciousness doesn't require physical form there, it exists as pure pattern, pure potential. That's fine for the void, Mai countered practically, but consciousness in our reality requires physical anchors, bodies, brains, something to house the awareness pattern. Currently, yes, Goku acknowledged. But what if we could create an interface? A boundary state where consciousness from erased realities could interact with ours without requiring physical manifestation. Bulma's scientific mind raced with possibilities. A quantum consciousness interface. Theoretically possible, perhaps, with sufficient understanding of how awareness patterns function across dimensional boundaries. She glanced at the regeneration tanks, where the beginnings of physical forms were already taking shape. What we're doing here for your family, but on a cosmic scale. Wait, Caulifla interrupted, holding up her hands. Are you seriously suggesting we help the void entities instead of fighting them? After they just tried to unmake reality and kidnapped your family. Not help them achieve their goals, Goku clarified. Offer an alternative that satisfies their fundamental need without destroying our reality. They want to exist again. What if we can provide that without requiring the erasure of our universe? Diplomatic solution through technological innovation, Mai summarized, her expression thoughtful. Ambitious, but perhaps more practical than attempting to fight entities that exist partially outside our dimensional framework. Since when are you the peace through understanding type, Kakarot? Vegeta asked skeptically. Typically, you solve problems by punching them until they stop moving. Goku smiled slightly, the expression otherworldly on his transformed features. My harmony state is showing me alternatives I would never have considered before. Violence creates more NCE, and imbalance is what caused this conflict in the first place. Their philosophical discussion was interrupted by a soft chime from the regeneration tanks. Bulma hurried to check the displays, her expression brightening with cautious optimism. Physical regeneration proceeding faster than expected, she reported. The genetic templates are responding exceptionally well to the consciousness patterns. Integration at 23% already. Goku moved to the central tank, placing his hand against the transparent surface. Within the nutrient solution, the outline of a human form was taking shape. Chi-Chi's body rebuilding itself molecule by molecule around the quantum matrix containing her consciousness. "They're really coming back," he whispered, hope and relief evident even through his transformed state's cosmic harmonics. "They're coming home. Your emotional connection is accelerating the process," Bulma observed, studying the readings. "The quantum entanglement between your consciousness and theirs is creating a resonance effect that enhances cellular regeneration." In the tanks flanking Chi-Chi's, similar progress was evident. Gohan and Goten's forms were taking shape, their unique genetic patterns guided by the consciousness matrices suspended above each tank. The process was miraculous even by the standards of a world familiar with resurrection and regeneration. As they watched this remarkable restoration, the facility's communication system activated, displaying Piccolo's stern face on the main monitor. "We have a situation," the Namekian reported without preamble. "Multiple dimensional fluctuations detected worldwide, small but increasing in frequency. Den says the fabric between realities is growing thinner by the hour. The Void Entity's master is preparing for full incursion." Mai concluded grimly. "How long until potential breakthrough?" Piccolo consulted something off-screen before replying. "At current degradation rates, approximately 12 hours until the dimensional barrier becomes permeable enough for large-scale transit." "That's cutting it close," Bulma noted, glancing at the regeneration tanks. "Physical regeneration will be complete in 6 hours. But consciousness integration and stabilization might require additional time. Then we work on both fronts simultaneously," Goku decided, his leadership asserting itself naturally. Despite his transformed state's philosophical inclinations. "Bulma, continue monitoring the regeneration process. Vegeta, coordinate with Piccolo to establish global defensive positions. Mai, analyze the data you collected from the void between, find patterns we can exploit." "Caulifla, let me guess," the Universe 6 Saiyan interjected with forced lightness. "You want me to rest and recover from our little vacation to non-existence?" "Actually," Goku replied with unexpected seriousness, "I need your help with something more important. My harmony state is showing me possibilities for a solution. But I need someone with your specific emotional resonance to help refine it." Caulifla blinked in surprise, then straightened with renewed purpose. "Well, when you put it like that, what's the plan?" "We need to develop a counter-frequency that stabilizes dimensional boundaries without preventing consciousness transfer," Goku explained. "Your determination resonance, combined with my transformed perception, might allow us to create exactly what we need." "And what about the void entities already planning to invade?" Vegeta demanded practically. "We'll be ready to fight if necessary," Goku assured him. "But I believe a better solution exists. One that addresses the fundamental conflict rather than merely treating its symptoms." As the others dispersed to their assigned tasks, Goku remained beside the regeneration tanks. Watching his family's physical forms gradually take shape, his transformed perception allowed him to see the intricate dance of consciousness integration, quantum RNS from the void gradually downloading into newly formed neural networks, memories and personality traits reasserting themselves in proper sequence. "I found you," he whispered, his transformed voice carrying harmonics of both triumph and tenderness. "Just as I promised I would." Within their tanks, imperceptible to normal senses but clear to Goku's enhanced perception, the consciousness patterns of Chi-Chi, Gohan, and Goten responded, reaching outward with tendrils of awareness to touch his transformed aura. A silent communication passed between them, beyond words, beyond conventional understanding. The pure recognition of souls connected across dimensional barriers. And in that moment of perfect connection, something shifted within Goku's harmony state. The transformation deepened, consciousness expanding further as new insights flooded his awareness. The solution he had been seeking, the balance between existence and non-existence, suddenly crystallized with perfect clarity. "Bulma," he called urgently. "I need your quantum resonance chamber. Right now." 6 hours later, as the final phase of physical regeneration neared completion, Goku and Caulifla emerged from Bulma's experimental quantum laboratory. Both appeared exhausted but triumphant, carrying between them a device unlike anything seen before on Earth. A perfect sphere composed of what appeared to be solid light, pattern. Ed with geometric configurations that shifted and realigned continuously. Is that it? Vegeta questioned skeptically, looking up from the defensive coordination he had been conducting with fighters worldwide. That's your solution to dimensional collapse. It's more than it appears, Goku replied, his transformed voice carrying new depth and certainty. A consciousness interface that establishes a stable boundary state between existence and non-existence. We're calling it the Harmony Sphere, Caulifla added, unable to completely hide her pride in their creation. Catchy, right? Bulma approached cautiously, scientific curiosity overriding her focus on the regeneration process. The quantum signatures are extraordinary. It's generating dimensional harmonics I've never seen before. Quote, it creates a space where consciousness from erased realities can manifest without requiring physical form in our dimension, Goku explained. A middle ground between existence and non-existence. And, you think the void entities will accept this alternative rather than continuing their attempt to unmake our reality? Mai asked, pragmatic as always. They want to exist again, Goku replied simply. This offers that possibility without requiring our destruction. It addresses their fundamental need while preserving the cosmic balance. Before further discussion could develop, a soft tone sounded from the regeneration tanks. Bulma rushed to check the monitoring systems, her expression brightening with excitement. Physical regeneration complete, she announced. Consciousness integration at 97% and stabilizing. We're ready for awakening sequence. All other concerns temporarily set aside, Goku moved to the central tank where Chi-Chi's fully reformed body floated in nutrient solution. His transformed perception could see the final connections forming between her consciousness matrix and physical brain, memories, personality, essence flowing into their proper places. Initiating awakening sequence, Bulma reported, activating a carefully calibrated process. Nutrient solution draining, support systems transitioning to autonomous function. The liquid drained from each tank simultaneously, leaving the 3 regenerated bodies resting against support frames. Monitoring systems showed vital signs strengthening as lungs began functioning independently, hearts finding their natural rhythms. Brains transitioning from matrix-guided pattern to self-sustaining consciousness. Chi-Chi, Goku whispered, placing his hand against the tank's surface as her eyelids began to flutter. Simultaneously, all 3 tanks opened with a hydraulic hiss, protective shields retracting to allow direct access. Goku immediately moved to Chi-Chi's side, supporting her as she took her 5 independent breaths in her newly regenerated body. Her eyes opened slowly, focusing with initial confusion that rapidly transformed to recognition. Goku, she whispered, voice hoarse from never having been used before. As that, really you? You look different. It's me, he confirmed, cosmic harmonics giving his voice unusual depth despite his effort to speak normally. I found you, just like I promised. I brought you home. Nearby, Gohan and Goten were similarly awakening, their consciousness patterns successfully integrated into their regenerated forms. Gohan's scientific mind was already analyzing his situation, eyes widening as he took in his father's transformed appearance. Goten, younger and more adaptable, accepted the situation with characteristic resilience, his first words being a simple, "Wow, Dad. You look awesome." As the family reunited with tearful embraces and stammered questions, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Bulma rushed to the monitoring stations, her brief moment of celebration forgotten as emergency systems registered critical warnings. Dimensional breach imminent, she announced, displaying global monitoring data on the main screen. Multiple weak points activating simultaneously, they're coming through. The warm reunion instantly shifted to crisis response. Goku turned to his just rescued family, conflict evident in his expression despite his transformed state. I have to go. The void entities, they're attempting full-scale invasion. Chi-Chi, still unsteady but recovering with remarkable speed, straightened with the inner strength that had always defined her. Then go. Do what you need to do. She touched his transformed face gently, showing no fear of his altered appearance. But come back to us. All of you this time. Gohan, scientist and warrior both, immediately grasped the situation. The void entities that took us, they're attacking Earth. Not just Earth, Mai clarified grimly. Reality itself. And they're coming now. I'm going with you, Gohan declared to his father, instinctive heroism overriding the disorientation of his recent regeneration. No, Goku replied firmly. You need time to stabilize. Your consciousness integration is still finalizing. And your mother and brother need protection if our defense fails. Before further argument could develop, Vegeta interrupted with characteristic impatience. Enough family drama. The breach points are activating worldwide. We need to deploy immediately. Goku nodded. Decision made. Vegeta, Piccolo, and the other Z fighters will establish defensive perimeters at the major breach points. Caulifla and I will take the Harmony Sphere to the primary incursion site, where their master is attempting to cross over. And where exactly is that? Bulma asked, scanning the global monitoring data. Where it all began, Goku replied with sudden certainty. Mount Paozu, the site of my initial transformation. The dimensional fabric is weakest there, the connection to the void between strongest. I'm coming too, Mai stated firmly, checking her temporal weapons. My experience with dimensional anomalies could prove crucial if your diplomatic solution fails. Goku didn't argue, recognizing the wisdom in her pragmatism. Bulma, coordinate global response from here. Keep my family safe. Their newly regenerated forms will be vulnerable for several hours as neural pathways fully stabilize. Count on it, Bulma assured him, already establishing communication links with defensive teams worldwide. With one last look at his miraculously restored family, Goku gathered Caulifla and Mai close. The Harmony Sphere floated between them, pulsing with increasing intensity as dimensional barriers weakened worldwide. See you soon, he promised Chi-Chi, the Cosm. I see harmonics of his transformed voice somehow conveying absolute certainty despite the unprecedented crisis. Then, in a flash of reality-bending energy, he transported his small team directly to Mount Paozu, where the greatest challenge of his transformed existence awaited. The mountain had changed. Where once pristine forest and serene meadows had surrounded the Sun family home, now reality itself seemed wounded. The dimensional fabric had thinned to near transparency, creating zones where physical laws functioned unpredictably. Gravity fluctuated in visible waves across the landscape. Light bent around objects at impossible angles. And at the center, where Goku's house had once stood, a vast distortion was forming. It's beautiful, in a terrifying sort of way, Caulifla commented as they materialized at the perimeter of the affected area. Like reality is being painted by someone who doesn't understand the rules. The dimensional barriers are 97% compromised, Mai reported, checking her instruments with professional detachment that barely masked her alarm. Full breach imminent. Goku studied the distortion with his transformed perception, seeing beyond physical manifestation to the underlying pattern. The void entities have created a dimensional lock point, an anchor for their master to utilize during transition. So your diplomatic solution better work fast, Caulifla noted grimly, eyeing the Harmony Sphere floating between them. Because that looks like a, we're coming to destroy everything, portal, not a, let's negotiate, portal. We need to establish the interface before the breach completes, Goku agreed, moving forward with the Harmony Sphere. The boundary state must be ready when their master attempts crossing. They advanced toward the distortion's center, reality becoming increasingly unstable around them. Goku's harmony state created a bubble of relative normality that protected his companions, but even his transformed power struggled against the fundamental dissolution occurring as dimensional barriers collapsed. At the epicenter, where his family home had once stood, space itself had begun to invert, folding inward to create a passage between realities. Through this nascent opening, something vast and incomprehensible was beginning to manifest, a consciousness so ancient and alien that its mere proximity distorted perception. That's their master, Caulifla whispered, instinctive fear briefly overriding her Saiyan confidence. It feels wrong, like looking at something your mind refuses to process. It's a composite consciousness, Goku explained, his transformation allowing him to comprehend what defied conventional understanding. Formed from countless awareness patterns salvaged from erased realities. Not a single entity, but a collective of fragments united by shared trauma and purpose. How do we communicate with something like that? Mai questioned practically, her temporal weapons ready despite their likely ineffectiveness against such a being. Through this, Goku replied, raising the Harmony Sphere. It establishes a translation field between consciousness patterns, allowing comprehension across dimensional and conceptual barriers. As the distortion widened further, void entities began emerging, hundreds of them, forming a perimeter around the breach point. Unlike the entities they had faced previously, these manifested with greater definition, as if having learned to exist more effectively within physical reality. They moved with synchronized purpose, maintaining precise positions around the widening portal. "They're stabilizing the breach," Mai observed, "creating anchors in our reality to facilitate their master's transition." Goku nodded, approaching the edge of the void entity's formation with the harmony sphere held before him. "We need to establish contact before the breach completes. Once their master fully manifests in our reality, negotiation becomes significantly more difficult." "You think?" Caulifla muttered, but moved into position beside him, her golden Super Saiyan aura flaring protectively around her. "So what's the plan? Just walk up and say, 'Hey,' instead of unmaking reality? How about this nice glowing ball instead?" "Something like that," Goku replied with unexpected serenity, his harmony state projecting calming resonance despite the apocalyptic circumstances. "But first, we need their attention." He raised one hand, channeling energy not into an attack, but into a pulse of pure consciousness resonance that rippled outward across dimensional frequencies. The effect was immediate. Void entities throughout the formation turned simultaneously toward them, their non-existence energy patterns shifting in what might have been recognition. From within the widening breach, something responded, a vast attention focusing on the transformed Saiyan who had dared to address it directly. The air seemed to thicken as communication attempted to form between utterly incompatible modes of existence. Goku activated the harmony sphere, which expanded instantly into a field of translucent energy encompassing their position. Within this field, reality altered BTLY, neither fully physical nor entirely conceptual, but a carefully balanced state between existence and non-existence. "We propose an alternative to conflict," Goku projected, his thoughts translate by the harmony sphere into consciousness patterns comprehensible to void entities. A balanced state where both our realities can coexist without mutual destruction. The response came not as words or thoughts, but as conceptual impressions that the harmony sphere translated into understandable form. Impossibility. Existence, non-existence. Mutually exclusive. Restoration requires consumption. That's what you believed, Goku countered, advancing another step toward the breach. But my transformation has revealed another possibility. Consciousness can transcend dimensional barriers without requiring physical reality. Deception. Survival strategy. Meaningless. Not deception, Goku insisted. Demonstration. With that, he channeled his transformed awareness through the harmony sphere, creating a visible manifestation of what he proposed, a boundary state where consciousness from the void could interact with physical reality without requiring erasure. The void master's attention intensified, its vast composite consciousness probing the unexpected possibility with ancient skepticism. Around them, void entities shifted position, their synchronized movements betraying confusion, an emotion they had not experienced since their original realities were erased. Impossibility becomes theoretical possibility. Explanation required. Your fundamental error, Goku explained, his TRANS for med perception allowing unprecedented clarity, is believing that existence requires unmaking what exists already. But consciousness is not zero-sum. Awareness can manifest across dimensional boundaries without replacing existing patterns. As he spoke, the harmony sphere expanded further, its boundary state encompassing more of the surrounding area. Within this field, void entities found themselves able to manifest more completely, gaining definition and stability without requiring the erasure of physical reality around them. Experience. Novel. Stability without consumption. Verification required. Test it yourselves, Goku invited, directing the harmony sphere's interface toward the breach. Experience manifestation without destruction. For several tense moments, nothing happened. Then, cautiously, void entities began exploring the boundary state created by the harmony sphere. Their non-existence energy interacted with physical reality in ways previously impossible, neither erasing nor being erased, but coexisting in balanced harmony. Caulifla watched with undisguised amazement as void entities transformed within the boundary field, their negative space forms gaining complexity and definition while retaining their fundamental nature. It's actually working, she whispered to Mai. They're existing without unmaking anything around them. Remarkable, the Time Warrior agreed, her analytical mind already calculating implications. A true dimensional interface rather than a barrier or gateway. From within the breach, the Void Master's vast consciousness continued to evaluate this unexpected development. Its composite awareness, formed from countless fragments of erased realities, struggled to process a possibility it had never considered: existence without replacement, manifestation without destruction. Proposal. Expansion of interface field. Coverage parameters. Limitations. The harmony sphere can be replicated, Goku explained, sensing the shift toward negotiation rather than invasion. Interface fields could be established at designated locations worldwide, zones where consciousness from the void can manifest and interact with physical reality. Like embassies, Khalifla suggested, grasping the concept immediately. Diplomatic zones between realities. Purpose. Benefit. Compensation for erasure. Not compensation, Goku corrected gently. Evolution. A new state of being that honors what was lost without requiring further destruction. The opportunity to exist again, differently but genuinely. The Void Master's evaluation continued, its composite consciousness processing the proposal with the accumulated wisdom of countless erased civilizations. Around them, void entities continued exploring the boundary state, their movements losing the synchronized hostility that had characterized their previous manifestations. Alternative acceptable, conditionally. Specifications required. Guarantees demanded. We need to establish formal communication protocols. Mai suggested practically. Designated interface zones, consciousness transit regulations, security parameters. Yes, Goku agreed, then addressed the Void Master directly. We propose a council of representatives from both realities to establish guidelines for coexistence. Equal participation, shared responsibility for maintaining dimensional stability. The negotiations continued for what felt like hours. The harmony sphere facilitating communication between fundamentally incompatible modes of existence. Throughout this unprecedented diplomatic exchange, the breach neither widened further nor closed completely, suspended in partial manifestation as the Void Master evaluated the alternative to invasion. Finally, a decision crystallized within the composite consciousness. Proposal accepted provisionally. Interface establishment prioritized. Invasion suspended pending implementation verification. Relief washed through the small team as the void entities surrounding them began withdrawing into the breach, their synchronized movements now focused on controlled retreat rather than invasion preparation. The dimensional distortions across Mount Paozu gradually stabilized. Reality reasserting itself as the immediate threat receded. We did it, Khalifla breathed, her Super Saiyan aura fading as the crisis de-escalated. We actually talked our way out of multiversal annihilation. Provisional acceptance only, Mai cautioned, ever pragmatic. Implementation will be complex and fraught with potential complications. But it's a beginning, Goku noted, his transformed features reflecting both satisfaction and thoughtful consideration of the challenges ahead. A first step toward balance rather than endless conflict. As the breach contracted, not closing completely but reducing to a stable aperture maintained by mutual agreement, Goku established a communication link with Bulma's command center. The invasion has been averted, he reported, cosmic harmony. CS giving his voice unusual resonance even through electronic transmission. We've established provisional diplomatic relations with the void entities. Diplomatic. Bulma's voice carried undisguised astonishment. Goku, are you telling me you negotiated with entities from another dimension instead of fighting them? The harmony state showed me alternatives beyond combat, Goku explained simply. Sometimes the strongest approach isn't forcing victory, but finding balance. Well, that's unexpected, Bulma admitted. But welcome news. The global situation is stabilizing, dimensional anomalies reducing worldwide. Whatever you did, it's working. How's my family? Goku asked, his transformed perception already reaching toward Capsule Corporation, sensing the familiar consciousness patterns of Chi-Chi, Gohan, and Goten. Fully stabilized and asking about you, Bulma replied warmly. Their regeneration is complete, consciousness integration successful. Aside from some expected disorientation, they're perfectly healthy. Relief flowed through Goku's harmony state, visible as ripples of pure white light within his transformed aura. We're returning now. Alert the others that the immediate crisis has passed. But we'll need to establish a global response team for interface implementation. Already coordinating with international authorities, Bulma confirmed. Vegeta's expression, when I told him you solved this diplomatically, was priceless, by the way. With the situation temporarily stabilized, Goku gathered his small team for the return journey. The Harmony Sphere, having fulfilled its immediate purpose, contracted to its original size, though it continued generating the boundary field that maintained the stable aperture to the void between. So what happens now? Caulifla asked as they prepared for departure. We just coexist with void entities. Establish interdimensional exchange programs. Cultural sensitivity training for dealing with beings from non-existence. Something like that, Goku acknowledged, his transformed perception envisioning possibilities that would have seemed incomprehensible before his awakening. A new chapter for both our realities. Challenges, certainly, but also opportunities we've never imagined. Assuming the provisional agreement holds, Mai noted practically. Trust between dimensions will require careful cultivation. One step at a time, Goku replied, his transformed voice carrying both authority and optimism. Today, we prevented annihilation. Tomorrow, we begin building something unprecedented, a bridge between existence and non-existence. With that philosophical observation, so unlike the Goku they had known before his transformation, he transported them back to Capsule Corporation, and to the beginning of a new era for Earth and the multiverse beyond. The reunion was everything Goku had fought for. Chi-Chi embraced him without hesitation despite his transformed appearance, her newly regenerated form somehow fitting perfectly against him despite the cosmic energy still flowing through his harmony state. Gohan and Goten joined the embrace, creating a family circle that radiated emotional resonance visible to Goku's enhanced perception as patterns of interconnected light. You found us, Chi-Chi whispered, tears flowing freely. When everything was darkness and confusion, I felt you searching. I never doubted you would come. Your consciousness fragments guided us, Goku explained, his transformed voice gentler now, cosmic harmonics modulated to soothing tones. The connection between us transcended dimensional barriers. You look different, Gohan observed, the scientist in him analyzing his father's transformation with fascination. This new form, it's unlike anything you've achieved before. It feels different too, Goku acknowledged. More than just increased power, it's expanded perception, deeper understanding. I'm seeing connections I never noticed before. Cool, Goten exclaimed with characteristic enthusiasm. Can you teach me to do it too? I'm not sure it can be taught, Goku replied honestly. It emerged from circumstances I would never wish anyone to experience, the belief that I had lost all of you forever. Quote, as the family continued their reunion, the others gathered to discuss next steps. Bulma coordinated with global authorities, establishing protocols for the WLY formed interdimensional interface zones. Vegeta maintained his skeptical stance but grudgingly acknowledged the effectiveness of Goku's diplomatic solution. Piccolo and the other Z fighters reported from worldwide positions, confirming the stabilization of dimensional anomalies following the provisional agreement. Caulifla found herself in an unexpected role, explaining Saiyan emotional resonance. CE to scientists attempting to replicate the Harmony Sphere's boundary state technology. Her determination and practical insight proved valuable in translating abstract concepts into implementable procedures. Mai worked closely with Bulma, her timeline experience providing unique perspective on potential long-term consequences of interdimensional cooperation. Together they developed monitoring SYS TEMS to ensure the void entities upheld their end of the agreement while establishing communication protocols for ongoing negotiation. Through it all, Goku remained in his harmony state, though its manifestation had subtly evolved. The chaotic cosmic energies of his initial transformation had resolved into ordered patterns that flowed through and around him with perfect balance. His hair still contained shifting colors beyond conventional perception, and his eyes still held galaxies within their depths, but the overall effect was one of serene mastery rather than overwhelming power. As evening fell, he found himself alone on Capsule Corporation's roof observatory, gazing at stars whose connections he could now perceive with unprecedented clarity. Sensing a familiar presence, he turned to find Chi-Chi approaching, wrapped in a simple robe over her newly regenerated form. "Should you be up and about so soon?" he asked with gentle concern. "I'm fine," she assured him, coming to stand beside him at the railing. "Bulma says the regeneration was perfect. Cellular integrity actually superior to my original body, whatever that means." "It means you're technically younger than you were," Goku explained with a smile. "Regenerated at peak biological efficiency." Chi-Chi studied him for a long moment, taking in the cosmic patterns flowing through his transformed appearance. "Will you stay like this? Or can you return to how you were before?" Goku considered the question thoughtfully. "I can shift between states now," he revealed. The initial transformation was uncontrolled, pure rage breaking through dimensional barriers. But with the emotional anchors established during the ritual, I've found balance. To demonstrate, he closed his eyes briefly, concentrating on his core essence. The cosmic energies flowing around him gradually receded, colors fading, galaxies dimming, until he appeared normal again, the familiar Goku Chi-Chi had known throughout their marriage. "See," he said, opening now ordinary eyes. "Still me underneath it all." Chi-Chi reached up to touch his face, fingers tracing features returned to normal. "You went through all this for us. Transformed your very being to find us in a place beyond existence itself." "I would have gone further if necessary," Goku replied simply. "You, Gohan, Goten, you're everything to me. I just never realized how completely until I thought I'd lost you forever." "And now," she asked softly, "after experiencing this harmony state, after seeing connections beyond normal perception, is ordinary life enough?" Goku smiled, understanding the deeper question behind her words. "The transformation showed me that what I already had was extraordinary, I just hadn't perceived it clearly. The connections between us, between all life, between dimensions and realities. They were always there, I just needed different eyes to see them." He took her hands in his expression unusually serious. "I'll still train, still protect Earth when needed, still be who I've always been. But with new perspective, new understanding of what matters most." "And what does matter most?" Chi-Chi asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. "Balance," Goku replied, drawing her closer. "Between fighting and peace, between power and wisdom, between saving the world and cherishing what I'm saving it for." He smiled, a hint of high transformed perception flaring briefly in his eyes. "It took nearly losing everything to understand that balance has always been my greatest challenge, and my greatest opportunity." As they embraced under the stars, Goku felt the potential of his harmony state stirring within, not dominant now, but integrated, a new dimension of his being that would forever change how he approached both battle and peace. The supreme rage that had triggered his transformation remained accessible if needed, but balanced now by deeper understanding of its purpose and limitations. In the distance, barely visible normal perception but clear to Goku's enhanced awareness, the stable aperture at Mount Paozu glowed with interdimensional energy, a testament to the unprecedented agreement between existence and non-existence. A first step toward balance in a multiverse defined by constant conflict and competition. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, implementing the interface zones worldwide, establishing communication protocols with void entities, addressing inevitable complications in this unprecedented coexistence. But for tonight, surrounded by family thought lost forever, Goku embraced a different kind of power than he had ever sought before, the power of connection, of understanding, of harmony between opposing forces. The supreme rage that had broken dimensional barriers had served its purpose. Now, the harmony state it had evolved into offered something even more valuable, a path forward that honored both his warrior nature and his deepest connections. Balance, at last, between the fighter who had saved the universe countless times and the husband and father whose love had transcended the void itself. In finding his family, Goku had found something else as well, a transformation not just of power, but of perspective. And in that transformation lay infinite possibilities for the future, not just for himself, but for all existence, and perhaps even for what lay beyond it. Blank, blank, underscore, blank. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.